be live now. It should come up in a second.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. All right. So as people like slowly start to trickle in here,
Yeah.
um, today's guest is PokiChloe. Thank you for agreeing to join me and hang out.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the plan today just to have a super relaxed conversation about Pokemon card collecting, the hobby in general. I do want to start just if you can introducing yourself a little bit. I'm really interested to hear about what got you into Pokemon, but also what got you into trying to create this business. And
Sure.
you just mentioned to me right before we went live that you like weren't a streamer before this, or you didn't play this stuff before. So I'd love to just kind of hear your story a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Chloe, otherwise known as PokiChloe. And I suppose I'll start at the beginning. So what got me back into it mainly is, like everyone, collected Pokemon as a kid. So when I was a kid, it was Base, Jungle, Fossil, Rocket. So it was basically rediscovering childhood cards like that had been in the loft, the attic for years. Getting them out kind of like is really what brought me back into it as an adult. Sort of slowly starting to pick up things here and there, and then putting a bit more time into it, sort of making it like a proper hobby again, like it was when we were younger, basically. And I'm lucky that my husband is also really into it as well, and he was a big Yu-Gi-Oh fan when he was a kid. So it was something we could kind of do together. So yeah, that sort of started it off. And to begin with, again, it was just sort of really slow, just sort of started picking up a few cards here and there, started putting a bit more time into it. And then I thought I'd make an Instagram page. Basically, I kind of didn't really think as many people shared their collections online as once I realized how big it was. So I made an Instagram page for it. And then from there, as I got more active on the Instagram page, someone or a couple of people said to me, "Have you ever thought about doing YouTube?" And to begin with, I said no. I was like, I don't know what I would do on YouTube. I was like, I don't know what I'd make videos on or what I would talk about. And then a few people said, "Why don't you stream, like open packs for other people?" And to begin with, it was kind of not my worst nightmare, but it's something I'd never done before. And like to get on the internet and go live and do all that sort of stuff, it's like nerve-wracking. It doesn't matter what your hobby you're in or what you're making videos on.
What were like the challenges of it immediately? Like what came easy and what was hard to do when you first started?
I think like when I first started, like the setup, basically, as like simple as that sounds, just knowing what was going to look good on the screen. Because obviously, if you're opening up packs for people, everything has to be really clear and visible. But then you kind of, like I've got now, obviously, I've got a big setup behind me, kind of wanted to sort of make it interesting enough that people would also watch it. So it was kind of like the room I'm in now has always been my streaming room. And the amount of times it's been changed, like this whole room has been turned upside down all the way around. I've had so many different things like displays going on, and it's taken, like I said before we started, like trial and error. It's taken ages to get to the point of knowing what works for me. And again, when you start anything, you're never going to know how it's going to turn out. You just sort of get into it and give it your best shot, basically. And it kind of started going really well. And then from there, that's kind of where I've like started adapting and sort of trying to work to what people want to see and what people want me to do, etc.
So you ask and get a lot of feedback and then try to make changes or try to let that sort
Yeah. I think in the beginning I was always very like, does this look okay? Is this what people are interested in, basically? And now that I kind of have my setup, well, it works for me now. I feel like I've got to the point where it's everything is how it should be and where it should be, and my cameras and everything. Now the main feedback I rely on is what people want to see me opening, what videos they want to see me do, etc. Because yeah, I just feel like if I'm putting out stuff people aren't interested in, obviously no one's going to watch. So I am very, I've got like a core group that always watch my videos. They're great. I've got like the members that are always there every time, but I always ask them like every single video, I always say, so what do you guys want to see me open next? Or what should we do next? Just because I kind of want to keep it as interesting for them as possible. And yeah, I didn't stream or do any of this beforehand. So to me, it's all new. So I'm just sort of adapting as time goes really with it.
Do you find that people are interested in your community in the Pokemon market, in like market conversations, or are they more interested in just seeing cards being opened or some combination?
Yeah.
Like,
I think a bit of both. I think the main following on my channel especially is the pack openings and maybe what I've been purchasing every now and then. I don't do too many videos talking about investing or anything like that, just because for me in the beginning, it started off as it's my hobby. It always has been, in that aspect since I got back into it as an adult, always will be, but now I have the business side of it. So for me, the investing thing, there's two different sides to it. So I don't really talk about it much because obviously what works for me in my business isn't going to work for someone in their personal collection, say. But I've definitely I've got people that are definitely interested in this kind of content, like, talking, whether it's just me on my own or with someone else, more in depth about the hobby itself, just because when you're opening packs, you're talking about what you're opening, or you're like sort of having a conversation with the chat. You don't have time to sort of like someone asks a question and go into that topic because obviously you're in the middle of something. So I think people enjoy this kind of stuff where they actually get to ask some questions about things that I probably wouldn't normally touch on in my normal videos. So it's just a bit different really, and I think they do like it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely what we do here. I think I probably opened stuff maybe like 3 or 4 times in the 200 videos or so I have.
Oh,
Or
really?
100 so I have, yeah, and I don't even have stuff in the backgrounds mostly. And yeah, it's mostly
Yeah.
just a lot of talking about the market, but also talking about the influencers and kind of the space and just, yeah, covering some of the drama and the scams and the toxicity and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. I think that a lot of people find, including myself, find all of it really interesting and enjoyable to talk about. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
do you find that you follow the market? Are you interested in what's going to go up? What's a good deal? What should I, or are you more focused on, because obviously, and you sort of alluded to this, there are different businesses within
Yeah.
the Pokemon card hobby, and one main business might be someone who's a reseller,
Yeah.
and a person who's a reseller, particularly if they don't have like a platform that you're trying to build, they're really looking to like buy things under market and then flip it or sell it at market,
Yeah.
hold because they think it's going to go up over time,
Yeah.
versus maybe someone like you who's more looking to, I mean, ideally probably find product undervalued, I would imagine, but a lot of it just trying to kind of get product and then creating an experience around it that makes it
Yeah.
entertaining and like worthwhile for people to, pay $1 more per pack or whatever, or $2
Yeah.
more for the experience.
Exactly.
How do you think about it?
So yeah, for me, it's obviously changed, especially this past year a lot. Like I've done a few videos like this now with people, sort of talking about, kind of not the sort of style videos I do on my channel. And a lot of people say also like, what are your collection goals and your personal goals within? And to be honest, a lot of that's been put on hold a bit for me, just because since I've started streaming and that became like a business, basically, I've had to put a lot of time and effort into that to make sure it stays consistent and that I'm regular and that like I'm on top of my game with that. So yeah, for that, I am lucky enough that now that I'm a registered business in the UK, I'm able to be a distributor, like an official distributor for Pokemon product. So obviously that helps me being able to get a lot of the modern sets, as soon as things come out. Believe it or not, I don't actually get that much through it. The problem is I think so many people wanted to sign up for it in the hype, they had to start being strict who they allowed to become part of the distribution. So obviously you have to be a business, there's a load of rules, etc. And I eventually got to the point where I met all of them. But they obviously limit it in the beginning. They're not just going to give you hundreds and hundreds of product, because I suppose they're worried about the whole flipper type people who just want to buy it, scalp, and then, do you know what, they kind of want to avoid that. So I get modern product in that way, but I'm always looking for packs to open, boxes to open. So on my channel, I tend to open mainly modern. And then once a month, we try and do a bigger box break. So whether that's Watsy or like mid-era. And I'm always looking for the next box to buy to break on the channel. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes nothing comes up for a while. And then sometimes I manage to pick 2 or 3 boxes up and we're sort of set for the next few months. But I sort of try and keep it manageable for people, because I know not everyone can afford to buy Watsy packs all the time, especially on stream, and have them ripped open, because obviously, you're not guaranteed anything at the end of the day. So yeah, I try and do that as like a once a month type bigger event that sort of people build up to and look forward to. But yeah, a lot of my purchasing in the last like 6 months or so really has been business based, but I'm always like keeping my eye out for things that I might think, oh, I want to add that to the collection. But with regards to collecting goals at the moment, I kind of even haven't thought about anything for this year, just because everything's kind of been put on a back burner as such with all of that.
So when did you, or how did you transition from was it like, I'm going to try this, and then it started working, and so you're like, I really enjoy this, so now I'm going to throw myself into this business? Or was it like, when did you decide I want to go from a purely private collector to that? Was it a moment, or did it sort of like transition or happen over time?
So when I first started the YouTube, I think all I did was pre-recorded videos in the beginning. So like, I think my very first video was a mystery box opening, because I thought that would be like the easiest thing to start with. So I started doing a bit of content like that. And then it kind of slowly started, again, like I said, was taking on feedback, seeing what people wanted to see next, maybe showing some of my, if I had a master set, we'd have a sit there and have a flick through and do all that sort of stuff. And then the streaming started, where I started opening up the packs for everyone. And like I said, when I started, I didn't know how it was going to go. It wasn't something I wasn't overly comfortable doing it in the beginning, because it was so out of my comfort zone, like putting yourself on camera and opening other people's packs. It was all foreign to me. I've never done it before. So, I've learned as I've gone. And it started to take off basically. And it got to the point where we kind of had a schedule. It would be 2 or 3 times a week, like it is now. And I've spoken about it a lot with regards to streaming. You spend, I think my streams are between like 3 and 5 hours a lot of the time. So you're on camera for that amount of time, but then it's the next day, you've got to get all your orders out as well. And at the time I was working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So I had a regular job to do the next day. So then it was all my evenings were being taken up by packing and all that sort of stuff. And then kind of off the back of the streaming, people said, I had to have a website for it where people can go on and buy packs. And people said, like, would you ever consider selling, your cards on there? Because I've obviously used eBay for a long time to, buy and sell like everyone else does. And I thought, okay, so maybe I'll make kind of more like a store type website where, I might have some singles or graded cards or whatever I've got available. I'll pop it on there, things that I weren't keeping for myself. And then it all kind of just over time got bigger and more and more. And then I think it was like September last year or sort of late summer. And I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with the streams, packing up all the orders, like staying on top of everything and being organized, as well as like always trying to look for the next thing to, get in for streaming, as well as trying to keep my collection going. And it got to the point where I was making enough money in certain areas that I was like, okay, now is the time that I either put everything I've got into it and I go with it, or I sort of scale back and focus on my actual job, because it was just sort of like unachievable. And I was getting burnt out, and it was tough. But I like the way I do it, obviously I stream, but now I've got my online store. So I have like a couple of different areas of the business. It's not like I was relying on just the streaming to, you know, pay me a wage or whatever, like anything like that. And I think like anyone, you know, who does want to do this sort of thing, if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to do YouTube, I mean, it's hard to make money, you know, just from YouTube videos or anything like that. I feel like you need to have other things going on in the background. So like I'd spoken to my husband about it and he's very supportive, luckily. And we kind of like came to the conclusion I was at the right place to really go for it. And ever since I have made the transition from full-time to this, it's gone really well. So I'm really grateful at the moment.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think it's with these things, it's can be scary and you sort of have to test it out, right? It's like I'm going to keep my 9 to 5 because I don't know what this thing is, and I don't know what it could be. And but yeah, I mean, being your own boss and having your own business and doing something that's fun like this and where other people are fun, you know, having fun, you know, all the time. It's definitely nice to be a part of. I know for me, in my journey, in terms of, sounds like you sort of look, you know, followed a PokiRev model. I looked at Scott Pratt and followed the Ezra Pratt model of what he was doing and managed to do, you know, and building my Patreon and trying to create, you know, something that was fairly sustainable for me, and to see kind of where it goes. I'm still and plan to, for the foreseeable future, be working a 9 to 5 of sorts. But it is my partner, who I brought on in part because I was getting hundreds of messages and you know, felt like if I'm going to take money from people, I really have to, you know, be responsive on these platforms and provide better quality stuff. I felt like I had to kind of take a partner on. And so Dan Ketchum on Collectibles became sort of my partner on the Patreon, and he does it full time. Now his full-time job is not, you know, he started a channel and is working on building up content. I'm not sure if you guys his channel.
I have. Yeah,
nice. Yeah. But he's someone who's been, for 15 years, has been buying and selling and flipping and doing arbitrage and all sorts of stuff online. And so has a great background in having that sort of business. But it's very interesting, these like hybrid content. It's like I have a number of different streams of income, right? I have my ad revenue, my membership, I'm directly selling to people. I'm trying to find good lots and deals that I can then, you know, sell at market. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of like I'd always said to myself, like, obviously in the beginning that there was no plan for this to become a business, a full-time thing. You know, in the beginning I'd never planned to even branch onto YouTube, and even making the Instagram, I was a bit like, I wasn't sure in the beginning whether it was even something I wanted to do, or whether it was just going to be, you know, something that was private, basically. And when it all started, and then, like you said, having the several streams of income, that is where I came to the point, like, this is my chance. If I'm going to do it, I'm not just relying on one thing trying to get the money in. I have several things going on. And again, it was more the time, like you say, taking people's money. You have to be able to, whether it's a service or a product, or, you know, you've got to be able to put the effort in and make it a decent product, decent service. And I was just getting to the point where it was going to be impossible to be good enough to sit there for hours opening packs on stream or get things out in time. And I just thought, I don't want to do it if I can't do it to the best of my ability, basically. So I quit my job in September, and I actually finished, well, I had it in my notice in September, and I finished my job at the end of November. I had like a 3-month notice period that I had to work. But I feel like once that happened, I felt like I could breathe a bit, because I knew that I was going to be able to get on top of everything, and really start planning out sort of this year and what that was going to look like. And I feel like I've been busier since I've quit my job, because when you're your own boss, it's different. You know, if you don't do something, it doesn't get done at the end of the day. So I feel like I'm harder on myself now. I've constantly got to be on top of everything. But I feel like when you start your own business, you know, I've never owned my own business before. So for me, this is all new, and I'm working out again, sort of, you know, what my good time management is, where I should be spending, what days of the week doing this and all those sort of things. So I'm constantly learning with the whole experience at the moment.
And your customers, your patrons, your these people, they become your boss in a sense, or it becomes like, I really, it's working for yourself. It's not like I get to do whatever I want. It's like, well, people are paying me. I mean, I think a lot of people I know, I really feel an ethical responsibility to earn that and to create and to give people what they want, what they need, what they desire. So how do you, because something we talk a lot about on this channel is ethical business practices and like ways of like, you don't want to be a leech on the Pokemon space where it's like, I get mine. I'm going to hoard the cards. I'm going to have the best collection and I'm going to take money from people versus creating something that is a win-win and sustainable, where, how do you think about that? And we can get into the details of like how you pick your prices, how you source your cards. I mean, it's a constant battle. And I think that's for people out there to understand it. It's something that, as people are constantly thinking about, I think we're trying, and we're all new to this. We're all trying to figure that out along the way too.
Exactly. I mean, for me, it's like I said, it's a full learning experience. So with regards to, you say that your customers or your patrons, whoever it is, are your boss at the end of the day. You're working for them. What you're doing is for everyone who, subscribes to you, buys from you. Like you say, you're not working for yourself and just sitting there thinking, oh, what would I like to do today? And just doing whatever. So I rely a lot on feedback from everyone who watches the channel and follows me. In my Discord, I'm constantly asking people what they want to see. And it's not that it's just staying relevant, basically, making sure you're providing an entertainment service or however you want to call it when you're, putting these types of videos out and streaming. And I just always want to be exciting enough that they'll come back and watch and that they enjoy it as well. I don't want them to feel like you say the word leech. It's a good way to describe it. You don't want to feel like you're just trying to take everything from everywhere. And, I'm sort of being just open and trying to branch out and try new things, see what works. Because at the end of the day, not everything's going to work as well. I think with streaming, for example, I might open sets sometimes that people find boring or they're not interested in, but I need to try a little bit of everything to know what works for my audience, what works for me. Because like you say, even though I'm doing it for everyone else, I kind of have to enjoy it as well. That's the reason I'm doing this, is because I enjoy it. And I don't want it to ever get to the point where it's work at the end of the day, but I'm very lucky it's work that I enjoy. I don't want it to ever get to the point where I'm thinking, oh God, I really don't want to do this, because it's not what I want to put my time into. So it's a tough one. It really is a tough one. But for me, I rely a lot on feedback, especially at the moment, because I'm so new to it in this aspect of, being a business and doing all these things. I just constantly ask people, are they happy with everything? Are they enjoying it? And I'm always sort of like, watching what everyone else does as well, with regards to streaming, and seeing if there's any new tips and tricks I can pick up, because I've never done this before. So I'm just going with the flow a lot of the time, and I might be missing something. So I am always pretty active watching all the other streamers as well, and seeing what they're doing and what's different and what I like, what I don't like, etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think being enthusiastic about learning is the key to improving in anything.
100%.
And that takes really what you're talking about, having humility and also being open to feedback, genuinely, and then trying to take it and some of it you'll take, some of it you're going to be like, maybe not that feedback.
There's always going to be some that is not going to work, but
exactly. You can't please everyone, the old saying, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You're never going to please everyone. It's never going to happen. But if I can make the majority of people, happy when they're watching and that really enjoying for them, that's all I'm aiming to do at the end of the day.
So what do you find is the most fun thing for you these days? Does it shift? Does it change? Like, what do you look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, to me, opening the packs, I'm extremely lucky I get to open the quantity of stuff that I do, because there are people who, that collect for fun and they collect as their hobby. And it's expensive. It's not cheap to go out and buy hundreds of booster packs to rip open. And I understand I'm really lucky, even though I'm not opening them for myself a lot of the time. I'm still experiencing it. I'm the one that gets to open other people's cards. I'm the one who gets to pull the cards and have the fun on the stream and interact with everyone when they're watching it. So for me, that's the really, really fun part. But also obviously when I have time, sort of spending time looking at my own collection. But like I said, that's kind of all slowed down quite a bit for me, just because I want to be able to make the streaming and everything else work so well. But yeah, I just feel like I'm lucky I get to open everything that I do. And I'm grateful for that as well, because I know a lot of people would love to sit there all day ripping open packs, because obviously that is the fun part. But yeah, that's the really enjoying part of it for me, and being on stream and doing all of that in front of everyone as well.
Yes, being grateful for the positions that we're in and what we have is super important. And it can really be I when we have conversations here about toxicity and jealousy and frustration, we're all in different places in terms of where our collection goals are. We're all in different places in terms of where our content creation goals are, or things are going in life. And ideally, if we can cultivate, being grateful with where we are, and then having this like humble attitude of trying to learn, educate, help each other, and get better, it can break down, some of the problems that happen in any community where there are people who are winning or succeeding or making the most money or getting the most fame or have the biggest collections, and then people who are struggling, to do that.
I mean, that's a topic that comes up a lot. And I feel like, especially in this hobby, some people feel like they always need to be the best or on top of everything else. And I've always said to everyone, especially even like going back to saying occasionally I do some like what I'm purchasing videos, I always start off by saying what you're going to see in this video, or what I've bought this week or this month, it might not work for you. Just because I'm buying it or someone else is buying it doesn't mean you have to feel pressured to going out there and trying to jump on whatever bandwagon you think there is at the moment. Because at the end of the day, people are going to like things that no one else likes. Your taste might change over time. And I just feel like some people, they're not necessarily peer pressured by anyone, but they just feel pressure in general that they have to be able to show off these certain things. And I just think it doesn't need to be like that. I think it's a hobby, and it should be you're collecting what you're enjoying, not what you think someone else is going to look at and go, oh, that's amazing. It needs to work for you at the end of the day, because it's your collection.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's obviously totally human and relatable to, to feel, frustrated with wherever you're at, and wish had more, or you had a job that you like better, or a collection you like more, whatever within the space. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's really, the individual responsibility and our responsibility, as you have a bigger audience than I do, but medium size, I don't know, small to medium sized creators in the Pokemon space.
Yeah.
It's like trying to encourage, educate, share, be generous, trying to help cultivate that sort of thing where we can have like difficult discussions that maybe we had this year around, scams or fraud in the Pokemon community, but in a way that it doesn't cause people to be like, this whole space is just filled with people trying to scam me and steal from me. And
no, of course,
make friends here and enjoy myself. And did you see Sport Card Investor? Do you ever watch his channel? Do you know who that is?
I don't. I've heard of him, but I haven't watched his channel before.
He had a video just talking about the way that he thinks about addressing or not addressing fraud and scams and toxicity in the Pokemon community, or sorry, he did it in the sports card community. Very similar types of things. But it was interesting. How do you feel like things have been in your world, online? Do you feel like it's been mostly positive? Has there been jealousy towards you, frustration towards you? Have you seen people? What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, like when I said in the beginning, like I didn't know how I'd feel about you doing YouTube or even really making an Instagram account to showcase everything, because you're always going to get people who are either, like you say, jealous, or they're annoyed, or you're doing something that bothers them, and obviously they're going to take it out on you. I feel like I'm really, really lucky, and overall I've had a really positive response from everyone on all platforms. I get the troll type comments like anyone else would, whether it's something to do with me being a female, or whether it's just you know, it could be anything. But in general, I've never had anything that I've thought, oh my God, like that's
Yeah.
really not my confidence or awful. But in the other aspect, I'm quite thick skinned in that way. And I've always I'm always of like the opinion in my head, like a lot of these people I don't know. I'm probably never going to meet them or ever see them. So I can't let their comments really get to me, because, like, if it was my friends making comments to me or my family, I'd feel hurt by that. But I've kind of like got this switch where I'm just like, it's just sometimes it's not even a person on the other end. You just got to think it's just this random message that comes out of nowhere. Like, you can't let
Yeah.
it get to you, because if you did, or if you do, I feel like you can crumble with that sort of thing. And especially if you are like out there putting yourself online, you kind of just have to be like, it's good and bad is going to come with it, whatever you're doing. And sometimes you might say things that other people don't agree with, or you might have things that other people want and they feel annoyed or, frustrated about that, and they'll take that out on you. But I mean, in general, I have been super, super lucky. Like the people that watch my channel, like, because I do live streams obviously 2-3 times a week, everyone is always really, really nice, really positive. And even on Instagram, I rarely get any messages where I think, oh my, that's awful. So overall, I feel like I've been really lucky. I always see there's always some sort of drama going on somewhere, but I feel like I've managed to avoid anything, catastrophic so far.
That's good.
Because I feel like there's always some topic or there's always some drama that people always jump on, and I keep
Yeah.
myself very distant from all of that. I don't ever like post about it or comment on any of it. I will, I'll see what everyone's talking about, and I will, stay informed with whatever the news is or the hot topic is. But a lot of the time I just don't comment on it or get involved myself as such, because I just sort of think, I think when, now that my page is also, my business and my streaming, I don't sort of want to bring down maybe what my personal opinion is on something. It's got nothing to do with what, my business views are, for example. It's two different things.
That's really interesting. The idea of like professionalism, or like I have my
Yeah.
personal opinions maybe, but I don't feel like that's in the best interest of my business or what people are
Yeah.
really looking from me or for me.
Yeah. I think like that would be the main thing. I don't think people follow me. I'm to know necessarily what I think about everything, whether it's something drama that's going on, or whether obviously we talk about hot topics. Because I've recently started a podcast with a friend of mine who's also a content creator. His name's Dean, Dean, and he streams like I do. And like on that, we'll talk about what's been going on, and the whole Logan Paul thing, for example, was one of the biggest things that happened recently with the whole fraud on the case and all that. So we spoke about that topic, and we said what we thought about it, but I never sort of delved too deep into anything, especially on my profile, really, because like I said, I've got the business and the store now, and I don't want, if I had a personal opinion that was really strong about something, I don't want people to think it's anything to do with, I just sort of keep it separate. But the podcast is kind of a good place for me and Dean to talk about things that we don't normally talk about on our own channels like this, because he streams as well. And like I said, when you're opening packs, you don't really get the chance to just sort of have a conversation about anything. So we decided to start the podcast at the beginning of this year, just because in the UK there isn't too much like what we're doing right now. I feel like a lot of you guys in the States, you collaborate a lot and you all sort of, have these conversations, and we don't have that too much over here. Not as many people collaborate and get together. So we wanted to try and start something a bit different and see if it sparked a bit of interest, basically.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I early on in my channel, I met like Tom and Connor and Randolph,
Yeah.
uh, who all were just like great guys, great businessmen, caring people for my interactions with them. So it would be great to see more people collabing, hanging out,
Yeah.
talking, doing
Yeah.
stuff there.
It's
I
something, I
want to do
mean,
more. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, me and Dean sort of like last year started collaborating quite a bit. We did some sort of streams together on both our channels and just sort of switching it up a bit. So it's not just us all the time. And that sort of we do go out there in the community, meet other people and, you know, become friends with other people. Like there's so many people you can meet in this hobby. And I think it's great that everyone gets together.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I talked to you before we went live about maybe, one thing I want to do on the channel is I want to have people on for some roundtable type stuff, which I've been doing fairly often, which have been some of my favorite conversations. But I wanted to have people on from like different places around the world, all on the same thing, kind of talking about the differences that we see in the different markets. I think that stuff would be super interesting. And yeah, I mean, we all collecting like the same stuff and I'm fascinated, I'm interested to learn. And I think and even just for my business, like I feel like I should know better what it's like and the difficulties and the prices people are paying in different parts of the world. And so I'm always looking for that information. I've had a few Patreon members who were came in and said, the information that you're giving is not what I experience where I am.
Okay.
I'm paying for these things. Jake, how do you find these deals that you find in America? These types of things. So it's there's all sorts of stuff with it's even just the prices you guys tend to pay for just booster boxes, like your brand new booster boxes. You're tending to pay $20 more, $20 more on average, right? It's almost like we pay like $80, you might pay 80 pounds or something,
Yeah, so that's literally what I was about to say. What I've noticed is whatever the dollar price is tends to be what the pound price is. So it's like you say, $80 or $100, it's £80 or £100. And I think a lot of people aren't as aware of that sort of pricing difference. So I actually have quite a lot of American people that get involved in my streams and obviously will visit my website and stuff. And I have had people say before, like, oh, that seems like expensive, or I can get it for X amount here, or how comes yours is cost this? And when I explain like the pricing difference mainly between the UK and the US, people are shocked a lot of the time. They don't realize. And I mean, that pricing is literally like RRP. There's like nothing is being added on there. Like literally, like it could be $80 where you are, it's £80 here. And that can really make a big difference, like on a lot of things, especially someone in the States who can buy it for that price. Why would they ever come over to me or buy from my store when it's going to be more expensive and shipping and stuff? So the differences between the whole world, basically, there's a lot. And I think it would be interesting to have those sort of conversations, like you were saying, getting like a round table, but people from all over the world having that discussion about, what it's like in each area. So I think people have a better understanding with each other.
Yeah, and it's interesting, depending on where you are, particularly places that are closer to Japan, sort of how some people that I know kind of leverage their closeness to Japan to have access or have sort of, and also maybe, meet people and connect with people and travel there to try and develop some relationships to get that Japanese product.
Yeah, I mean, on my channel and myself personally, so when I was younger, I only had English cards. I didn't have Japanese when I was a kid. And when I got back into it as an adult, I mainly stuck to English to begin with, just because Japanese wasn't anything I experienced when I was younger. So I didn't sort of have that sort of, I wasn't trying to get the modern Japanese sets like I was with the English stuff. And then on my channel, we mainly open English. So my sort of core is English product. So I've never really had to. I collect vintage Japanese now. Like as an adult, I've discovered new cards and things I didn't know about, obviously when I was younger. But with regards to modern Japanese, I luckily haven't really had that struggle, just because it's not really what I open for my audience. And a lot of them do enjoy it, but a lot of them like the English sets being open. So that's what I've stuck to. But yeah, I know there's always people saying how difficult it can be to get in that Japanese product or just get that contact to be able to then have some sort of line of connection to be able to get the product in.
Yeah, for sure. has definitely been my experience.
Yeah.
I've yet to ever I've never been to Japan, so I'm hoping to to go at some point. Maybe I'll bring a huge duffel bag and
Yeah. Smuggle as much as you can back in.
yeah, although things are like more expensive there sometimes than they are on eBay here for whatever reason. So I don't know. Pokemon
Yeah, that
cards
would
have
be an incredible
blown
place
up.
to visit.
They've blown up in Japan over the past couple of
Yeah.
years. And yeah, prices on things that I see in Japan and some of these stores, I'm like, wow, I like can even get that cheaper. Somehow I can get this Japanese card cheaper in America than I can
It's
get it.
crazy.
It's interesting, yeah, how that happened.
But yeah,
Uh,
the whole worldwide market, it's so different. And like
yeah,
I noticed it, especially like just buying and selling just in general, whether it be for my personal collection or for the business, when you're having conversations with people from elsewhere in the world and you're so off on like pricing a lot of the time, and it's like they can't understand and I can't understand. And then when we look at each other's markets, it's like it sort of all makes sense, and it is then harder to do those deals because it's just not worth it in that aspect a lot of the time.
are there things that you find you do have some competitive advantage being where you are, or does it feel like it's really across the board just more difficult?
It honestly more difficult. So
So,
like with regards to modern, not getting big allocations on a lot of things,
yeah,
pricing not being, like where you in the States, it just doesn't compare. And then just in general, we don't have as many like card shops as you guys do. So I was in the States like 2 or 3
yeah,
weeks ago, and did a lot of driving while I was out there, and like went to so many local card shops, pulled over in wherever we were, and we just don't have that here. And even our big retailers, like I went into Target and Walmart a few times to see what I could just pick up off the shelf, and was able to grab quite a bit of product. Whereas in the UK, you walk into a supermarket and I would be surprised if my supermarket had anything. And if they do, it might be a Battle Styles blister or a Vivid Voltage blister. They're not, getting celebrations when it comes out and filling the shelves. They're not getting brilliant stars, and it just doesn't work like that. We have a few sort of bigger toy store retailers that do get product in, but even then you can only buy one thing because they're so limited, and obviously they don't want people going in and buying them out. So I feel like I say it a lot, and I'm not giving the UK a good name, but I feel like it's a struggle here, just with a lot of things with regards to pricing, allocation. We just don't get half as much, as like I use America as an example, but it just doesn't compare at all, really.
yeah. Yeah, it gives me some just like I think added admiration for UK collectors and EU collectors. I'm like, it's awesome that you guys like, I mean, you just enjoy Pokemon and want to collect, and it is what it is. It's like you, so you have to pay the taxes, you have to pay the higher
Yeah.
price if you want to get it local.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a bit of a fight a lot of the time.
yeah,
And some people are like, oh my goodness, why do you even bother? And it's like, well, obviously I enjoy it. This is what I want to do. And I think
yeah,
we're used to it. We don't know any different, but then we do know different because we see what you guys experience. So we're aware that how easy it is, but we're just so used to how we get our products. I think like, whatever you don't know doesn't bother you type thing. It's just, we have to do what we have to do to get it basically. And everyone just gets on with it.
and I hope over time that, particularly because my impression is that particularly per capita, I mean, it seems like there's lots and lots of trading card TCG fans, in the UK, in the EU. It does
Yeah.
not seem like it's a per capita, like they're less there or something than there would be in the US. I obviously don't know that data.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
but but
Um, I think it's just because we're so small, like the country is so small. But I mean, like you say, there are lots of TCG fans here, like, and whether it be Pokemon or other TCGs, like, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, or anything like that. So to see more card shops would be, I know people would go to them. I know people would go out of their way if they had their local card store. Don't get me wrong, they exist, but just not on the scale that you guys have it. And again, with card shows, like I know with COVID and the pandemic, obviously a lot of things haven't been normal over the past couple of years, but there was nothing going on here with regards to card shows, really, not that I was aware of, just because we had so many restrictions with regards to large events, and it couldn't happen. But I feel like all I see, especially on Instagram, is everyone going to CollectorCon or Collectors Con and getting together, and there's always something going on. Again, that doesn't happen as much here, but actually this year I'm actually going to 3 card shows. for the first time like ever. So it'd be interesting to in the UK experience that and see what it's like in comparison. But I just feel like I would like a bit more to go on here to bring the community more together, because I feel like everyone's sort of a bit not segregated, but there's just not as many opportunities for people to go out and see each other basically.
Well, maybe, maybe it provides some opportunity for you and PokiDean and other people to
Yeah.
create some of these collector events over time.
Yeah, we have spoken about that sort of stuff before, and it's just sort of getting a feel for it in the UK and sort of seeing how it would work. So obviously it'd be a pretty sort of new thing to do, but yeah, I would love to be able to offer something like that or do something like that further down the line.
Maybe even partnering with Collecticon and Collecticon or something.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think people would absolutely love it here as well. And it would be a great experience. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think because sometimes it's just a matter of somebody starting the business, and it's like, like the market is there, or could be built. Like it might take some time, but it's like there might be more people interested in that than we think, rather than, the idea, right? It's like, well, if there is no business, or if, why because there's really only one like major distributor, right? For you guys.
I think that the sort of main one that I'm with anyway. I think there's a few not smaller, but not as big. But yeah, like you say, it just takes that one person to make the first move, and then sort of everyone follows suit as such.
Show that there's a market, that there's
definitely
like, business.
But yeah, I'm hoping we see more of that sort of stuff in the UK and things start to pick up a bit. But I do feel like we're a bit excluded a lot of the time, just in the fact with regards to product and just everything really. I feel like there's always something bigger and better going on overseas, across the pond, but hopefully we'll be able to grow that here and make a bit more of it, which is kind of why I want to be able to collab with more people and sort of show that, we do all get together and we do all, do things in person as well. It's not always online and virtual, etc.
Yeah. I mean, all that stuff just makes the hobby a lot more enjoyable to be a part of. And
it does. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, just being able to share it with other people that enjoy it as well. And like I said, you'll end up meeting friends and so many other people. And I just think that's the social aspect is a great aspect of it as well.
Absolutely. So why don't we, if people want to start asking us questions, or we can start responding a little bit to the chat as well.
Sure. Yeah, I've got the chat up here, so I'll have a little look through it.
So yeah, if anyone has asked any questions that you feel like answering or addressing, we can also talk about the Pokemon market, about our opinions on that if you'd like.
Sure, yeah.
I am interested, because one thing I'm interested in, I guess, before I wanted to ask you, we don't need to talk specifically about like ace grading, but just more like two things I think are would be interesting would be something like ace grading, right? A place that becomes really captures the business in the EU potentially. Kind of what your thoughts are on that. Is that something that you feel like people might go for over time? And again, it doesn't have to be specifically commenting about ace grading, but something like that. And I also think another thing that would be really good would be having like a selling platform or an auction house or something that makes it a lot easier, to sell to in your neck of the woods. I don't know what your thoughts are on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You want to create something.
Yeah. So with regards to the grading side of things, so obviously PSA is based in the States, and obviously, the biggest, or one of the most recognized grading companies, etc. I have always really used PSA. I've spoken about this before, how it's just my preference. Even down to the slab, like the very basic look of it, I know what it is. It's straight to the point. Obviously, there's a lot of new grading companies popping up, and they're all sort of trying to have their own take on, grading and sort of the looks of slabs and switching things up, which is great, because there are people out there who like the color and like a lot going on. And there's people who like, your standard basic, whatever it is. So I've always used PSA, and I always used to use a middleman service, which I'm sure you guys have out in the States as well. And then I started submitting directly myself. And I've actually now started offering a middleman service. I mainly sort of talk about it on my YouTube. And I'll just say to any of, anyone who follows me, if you've got cards and you're based in the UK and you're nervous about, sending overseas, you haven't done it before, I'm more than happy to do that for you. So I've kind of started doing that just as another thing, as part of the business side of it. I would personally just like to see PSA have more of a presence in the EU or UK, whether they have an office here or just, move over here, just make it a bit easier as such. I'm not opposed to new grading companies at all. I've used some of them. But if it was for like my personal collection and any big cards for me, I would personally use the likes of PSA or maybe Beckett even as my first choice. But I think it's good that there are options popping up here now, because it makes it easier and more affordable for people, because obviously you can submit on a regular or bulk service on a lot of these new companies, whereas some of the bigger companies closed service levels because they were getting overrun, etc. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole grading thing. I don't know, do you guys get a lot of new grading companies popping up in the US? I've sort of not really
definitely. Yeah. And I hear about lots of things and I get contacted by lots of them wanting me to review them or
right. Okay. Yeah.
like, oh, you can grade some free slabs with us and then review on your channel, these types of conversations. So I know that they're out there. I probably get a message once a month or so these days.
Right. Okay.
So
yeah, I've had a few as well like that, but I'm just sort of careful with what I sort of, because anyone could start their own grading company. I think it's just sort of making sure that they're sort of doing everything properly and it's what you would want out of a grading company as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a hot topic right now. Rattle on his channel has been covering, I don't know if you watch his channel at all, has talked about them grading, some mistakes they made with like a toxin or the no number and, some stuff that's like pretty alarming because it's like a lot of us know, like, and could have told you. And why are you hiring? I mean, like it feels like if you're grading cards that are worth $100,000 potentially, or even $10,000, $5,000, $1,000, and even $25 ideally, you would at least be able to get the authentication right. I mean, to me, the authentication is the first and foremost most important thing. The grade is certainly extremely important just because of how much. And it's kind of crazy. We're kind of crazy people, but how much we pay for grades. And that gets into a whole conversation of, do we need artificial intelligence and is it ridiculous and how subjective it all is? And
yeah, of course.
The frustration of having your beautiful card get a 9 and your buddy's garbage 9 get a 10, and just like, what happened?
No, I understand that.
But my thing, and we had this, I was having this conversation with people in my Patreon the other day in the Discord, and everyone was sort of like disagreeing with me. It's like 1 versus 5. I think that everyone is being like too hard on PSA, and and going back to our conversation about being grateful, these companies, these that people have started, that people have built, and all the people working there, they are a humongous reason why this hobby is enjoyable and fun and growing. And now there are going to be some people out there who are like, grading cards is stupid and you're just putting it in plastic and it's all to make money and it's all a scheme and it's all these types of things. And it's like, well, like, okay, like collecting and creating chase and artificial rarity and scare, it's all part of it. You can choose to kind of be involved in it or not, but a lot of us really enjoy it, and understand the risks and some of the silliness and can laugh at ourselves, but it really makes it a lot of fun. And ultimately, as collectors, there are certain, like, grading really makes collecting fun, and it adds a whole nother, condition rarity to cards that are not rare. No Pokemon set cards are even close to rare in the world, and yet condition rarity allows us to have for that to be fun. And then authentication is obviously so important if done correctly. So I think my take on this stuff has always been, we should really be in support of these companies. We should really want them to succeed. Them succeeding is us succeeding, but we also should hold them to account and say, this is not okay. This is not, but yeah. And I'm hoping that these issues just get resolved over time. And people have to understand, it's what we were talking about earlier too. Like you and I are going to make mistakes. PSA is going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Businesses are going to make mistakes. We're all trying to kind of figure out how to best serve the community, how to do it in a positive way. And you are going to have people or companies or individuals who are going to be leeches. And if PSA starts to become a leech, or some of these companies, I will share that opinion, but it's there's a lot of distrust and a lot of negativity and frustration around all of it. And yet I think sometimes that overshadows or ignores all of the positives that it brings and all of the fun that it brings to all of us, or to lots of us. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, like you say, the whole, if you're a graded card collector or you have graded cards in your collection, they're a big part of the hobby and the community. So if we start to bring down these people and these companies, then surely that brings down a lot of what we're putting our time and effort into. So like you say, everyone's going to make mistakes, whether you're a multi-billion pound company or you're a one-man band and you're doing your own thing. So I think, like you say, people and companies should be held accountable, but I think we should remember why we do this at the end of the day and what we're all here for. And a lot of it is that whole thing. So yeah, I think people
the influencer or the company you're trying to tear down would hurt the hobby. And what happens is, oftentimes when you go after someone or you try to tear them down, they become defensive and behave even worse, rather than approaching it in a productive way of like, how do we solve this? How do we all, do better?
And then being supportive once we see those changes, and not always going back to the negative or what the problems were. If we can overcome it, that's the right direction. And like you say, if we bring that down, we're bringing ourselves down and the hobby down at the end of the day, which is counterproductive in my eyes. So I totally agree with that.
Sure. All right. You want some market questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it.
All right. We're getting some market questions flooding in. Okay. Here. We're transitioning into Pokemon speculating and investing. Let's see what PokiChloe thinks. All right. Thoughts on secret rares from the Nintendo EX era. And if you ever don't want to answer or whatever, feel free.
That's fine.
Those come from packs, for example, Celebi EX, and ones that are included in each box, such as Absol. And then which is rarer.
So for me, the EX era, the Nintendo EX era, it's not really something I have much of in my collection, with regards to what my thoughts on them are. So I don't really have much of an opinion or such, or which is rarer. Again, it's not really something that I would have, like, I don't know about you, and what you have in your collection, your personal collection, etc., what your thoughts would be. But for me, it's not really something that I would have too much of an opinion
on. So I believe they're talking about the box toppers, and they're like the regular EXs. So I can't know anything for sure. One time in our Patreon, Chloe, we tried to break down what we thought all the estimated print runs of every box of every generation was, based on some data that Pokemon had put out. And the company had put, NASA had put out, like, other weird things that had put out around Pokemon card data.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but we're definitely not confident.
I was going to say, with things like that, having the, unless you have the actual solid black and white evidence in front of you, it's hard to comment on a lot of those things without knowing 100% of the time. Obviously, people have their thoughts and opinions, but
so theoretically, you could do the math and you could say, well, okay, there are 5 regular EX cards in this set. To pull an EX card is 2 per box, 1 per box, whatever.
Yeah, and then break it down.
The box topper, there are this many box toppers. We get 1 every booster box, and so you can figure out, how is it harder to get each of the box toppers, or is it harder to get EX? But then the other question is, how much of this stuff was not in booster boxes? And the answer is probably a decent, a lot. Obviously, we see these packs and all sorts of products that these were sold for years on the Walmart shelves and all sorts of variety that were not booster boxes. So Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the answer to that.
But that's how you would start to figure it out and sit down. So you kind of have to do the math, and really there's no one who secretly knows other than maybe some maybe some Nintendo employees or people who maybe did the distributions. But I doubt. I mean, it would be amazing if someone knew, right? Like, this is how many of the tins were printed. This is how many of like these weird 3-pack blister.
It would be incredible if someone had that like exact data somewhere, because obviously, like you say, you could sit there, do the maths, break it all down, and everyone could actually get a better idea. But at the moment, it's a guessing game a lot of the time.
Yeah. And even like there's disagreement between, I know some people who have opened a pretty decent amount of the original Nintendo EX era. And I'm talking to one person and they say, well, I pulled like 2 EXs per box of this set, but only one of this set. And then another person says, well, I pulled more from that set, or gold stars are 1 in 72, or I think gold stars are even harder to pull than that. So it's even just we can't do these mass box openings that we see with the modern product, where we can we can open 15,000 booster boxes on video, and then someone can bring all of that data to and say, this is the pull rate from 15,000 boxes. We just don't have that. So
yeah. And obviously people trying to remember if they did open boxes, either whether it was years ago or recently, and like the comparisons, it's not all going to line up, because like you say, we don't have enough of it to be able to compare now. So I think with those sort of things, it's always harder, just because obviously it's so many years ago now. I've seen someone ask about what the card shows are that are coming up in the UK, and I'll just briefly touch on it because there is a few UK people in here. So there's a card show called the UK Card Show that's in April, and that's one that I'm going to. It's not just Pokemon, it's sports cards as well. I'm not sure if there are going to be too many other TCGs there. And then there's a London card show in April as well. Again, quite a lot of sports. The thing in the UK with a lot of these card shows is they're quite sports card orientated, and the Pokemon guys are trying to start to get a bit more involved. But I'm hoping the more we put it out there that they're going on, and there'll be a few Pokemon stalls or Pokemon people there, we'll get more Pokemon interest. And then there's one in Cardiff in September. So just anyone watching that's interested, I just thought I'd mention that in case people want to try and get tickets to go, because it would be good to see people there.
Nice. Someone's asking me if I'm going to the CollectCon in Orlando with Dan. I'm not. I think Dan is officially going, so you guys will get to see him down there, which will be fun. I am not. I am hopefully going to the Charlotte and the Denver one though this year.
Nice.
Chloe, how does insurance on being a middleman work? Is it super hard to format how much insurance you need?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of people always ask me that sort of thing. And with regards to like shipping cards, whether it be overseas or in the UK, obviously with overseas, you can send like your basic. So here in the UK, it's Royal Mail, whereas you guys have like the United States Postal Service. It's kind of the equivalent. I always use like couriers for that. So like FedEx, that's someone who I rely on. They are very good. I'm lucky so far, touch wood, I've never had anything major go wrong. And if I have, it's always been rectified. With regards to insurance, I've actually had a question about this recently. Someone said to me they've got a card and they think it's worth £1,500 raw. And, anyone can think anything is worth as much as they want it to be. But I always say that things should be insured to whatever their latest sales are. So I've had people say, well, I've seen listings for this be 1.5, 2 grand, but they're actually selling quite a lot under that. And it's just explaining to people like things will be insured against what they're actually worth, not what other people are listing and what you think they're worth. So it's just always important to make sure you know the actual value of the card, rather than because someone could say anything to me is worth £1 million, but if it hasn't sold for £1 million, it's not worth it. And with the middlemaning stuff, I'm not like I'm new to it, but like I just follow what I do for myself basically, and make sure everything is insured correctly, like I said, to what the card's actually worth, and not what someone says to me, oh, I think my card is worth this much. You just have to be careful, and you also have to make sure you do have the right insurance in place for a lot of these things, because like I said, you're sending overseas, so it's not just it's risky, and things have the potential to go wrong. So just making sure you're covered, basically. But that's how I work it. And I always use the same courier company, so I sort of know how they work and what their terms and conditions are and things like that.
Important stuff. There's always a lot of details when you're running a business to make sure
There really is.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it.
And oftentimes it's good to pay experts. Something I talk a lot about when people ask me questions about taxes or questions about.
Oh God, yeah.
I like to learn these things because I like to have my own. I like to know why I'm paying something or what's going on.
Yeah, no, of course.
I have a CPA and take it very seriously. So.
Yeah.
And with insurance companies, definitely.
It's always best to, with anything like that, is check directly with whoever you're using, whatever you're using, what their terms are, and then work from that, because you could make up whatever you want, but if it's not going to work with that company, you're not going to get paid out, or there's so many things that can happen. So you've always got to make sure you're in line with whatever their rules are, basically.
Rainy Day Collectible says PSA just expanded their Japanese office, and he thinks that that there'll be an EU hub in the next 18 months.
That's interesting. Like I said, I'm hoping they do have more of a presence in the EU, UK, wherever that will be. I just think it will make things a bit easier, and we won't have to worry about the overseas shipping as much if we've got something in our own area, basically.
Michael says, I just got back into Pokemon after 20 years. I really am just interested in purchasing some old vintage cards I couldn't obtain when I was a kid. Is eBay the best option?
So personally, myself, I have bought a lot off of eBay. I also sell a lot on eBay. eBay, you just have to be careful. I always say it's more common sense. For example, if you find a listing, that person has zero feedback and nothing else for sale, it's a red flag. Don't go near it. Don't touch it, no matter how good it looks. Like I said, because I've been using eBay a long time now, there are regular people I buy from, and I see regular people buy from me. But another thing is just starting the Instagram and meeting people through that. I've come to find sellers who are all they do is flip and sell, but people that I now trust because I've bought from a lot, and have good references. I think it depends on, like you say, you're buying vintage cards. I think as long as you're careful, that would be my advice. I don't know if you have any experience with regards to what you would recommend, but I always say just be really careful. If something's too good to be true, sometimes it is. And if you're buying, for example, on a social media platform, asking someone for references or speaking to other collectors that you see maybe follow a profile, see if they've got any experience with that person, just get a bit of feedback basically, and sort of know that what you're going into is what it's advertised as.
Yeah. I mean, I think the nice thing about eBay is the protection that you get with eBay.
Yeah.
So if someone tries to scam you, you'll be fine. You'll get your money back. It might be annoying. Might have to open a case, and if you don't have a lot of feedback yourself, it might take a little bit of time, but they'll side on the buyer side.
If something has gone wrong and it's legitimate.
The only time they don't side on the buyer side is if the buyer has like zero feedback and the seller has like a massive amount of feedback, and it's all so, and even then I've seen them side on the buyer side. So definitely eBay is a really good place. You might be able to find cheaper on Facebook, their Facebook groups, lots of different Pokemon market Facebook groups. Generally buying multiple cards at once is going to be a cheaper option rather than buying individuals, but there's nothing wrong with buying individuals. Another good option is TCG Player. If there are just a few specific cards you're looking for, you can go on TCG Player, and then you can just buy those singles. And sometimes, it's good to check each thing. On eBay, you really want to check sold listings. TCG Player is a good place to see what that individual card has been selling for, to get an idea of, this near mint and it has condition. Mostly it doesn't give you pictures on TCG Player. Some people provide pictures, but it'll say light play. LP means light play, NM means near mint. Then there's, what else is there? They have damaged and they have moderate play there. So You can kind of get the condition that you want. And the negative of buying from TCG players, sometimes it is more expensive. Buying individual cards can be more expensive, and you don't actually get to see the cards. So particularly with vintage stuff, there's a decent chance that someone's going to describe something as near mint, and it's really going to be more light play. It's really going to have, from my perspective. So it's kind of a crapshoot, although it can also go the other way sometimes. Although usually modern cards that are described near mint are really in very, very good condition, or often pack fresh, whereas the vintage stuff mostly is not pack fresh. It's mostly been in people's collections and been out in the world for 20 years, and so has some edgeware and is beat up. But that's exciting. Welcome back. And you'll start there, and then a few years from now you'll have a channel like this. That's how
you'll know everything.
I know the two things that I did when I first got back in is I opened modern product, and I finished sets that I never finished as a kid. Those are the ways I started, and then I kind of went from there.
There's a question here about metal cards, saying, what do you guys think about metal cards being printed by the Pokemon company in the future? I asked this question on the basis that the other metal cards were often damaged in the UPCs. It's an interesting question. I don't know what their plans are. Obviously, that was like Celebrations. That was kind of like the Celebrations was a real one-off, getting all the reprints, and they made it as special as they could and added in the metal cards. Mine were quite badly damaged in my UPC. If you got a perfect condition one, you were super lucky, because obviously they've been rattling about. But I don't know what their plans are, or what they'll do, or whether they'll keep that exclusive to that particular anniversary. Whether they'll do it again in 5 years' time, I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Some people being rude in chat here. Seeing people right. All right, like let's all relax. Nothing too crazy or serious about it.
You always get it, always in a live stream.
And then I see people like responding to them, and that's
funny. Them back down.
Is first edition Fossil better than Jungle first edition because of the Dragonite?
Good question. For me personally, if I had to if I had to pick between the two, Fossil would have the slight upper hand for me. That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, there's going to be people out there that love Jungle, don't like Fossil. If that works for them, that's fine. But for me, I would definitely end up opting for first ed Fossil over Jungle.
So I think Jungle, I used to be more buying Jungle because Jungle is actually a rare box and a rare, the pop reports reflect that. I've bought thousands and thousands of things over the years and seen tons of cards. It's been my personal experience, and harder to get PSA 10s. And some of my favorite Pokemon are in Jungle. In Fossil, I like the legendary birds, although not so much Zapdos. I don't really like that art as much as base set, and I was always annoyed that they just like reprinted. Like, why did they include Zapdos in base set? If I don't know. And Magneton, like in both base set and Fossil, it's like a lot. They love WotC loved Magneton for whatever reason.
Whatever reason that might be.
Neo Revelation, they just kept putting Magneton in, and then Magneton had 2 different hollows in Skyridge. Interesting.
Because obviously someone was in love at the time.
Yeah, they were really trying to push Magneton to be everyone's Pokemon, I guess.
Trying to make it happen.
But yeah, so I personally prefer Jungle a little bit for the rarity, and I love Snorlax and the evolutions, but the Dragonite card is definitely super, super iconic, and probably was the majority of people's favorites of those 2 sets.
Yeah, that would be why I like it so much, definitely.
And I think most people liked Fossil better in general.
Yeah.
And as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, going off of like what I've opened on my channel, I've done one unlimited jungle break. That was my first actually big Watsy box that I ever did on my channel. Whereas I've done an unlimited fossil box and first edition fossil. It just seems to have always be that little bit more popular than jungle is what I've found so far. But I've actually opened some jungle packs over the past week on the channel. People just love Watsy in general, but especially those, you know, base jungle fossil rocket. But yeah, that's just my view on it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has like people don't like Venomoth. People don't really like Violet Plume. Mr. Mime's not that popular.
Yeah.
So there's some, you know.
Yeah, it's up and down, isn't it?
Let's see. Your average player asks, what do you guys think about the US inflation rate being 7% in January?
That's very particular.
What's your opinion on the inflation rate in the US right now?
I mean, it doesn't affect me personally, so I don't really have an opinion.
What's the inflation rate in the UK? Do you know?
Do you know what? I don't even know. I don't even know at the moment. That's how switched on I am.
Yeah. My opinion is that it's gonna, you know, the Fed is probably gonna have to act, and it's in the short run, you're gonna see some bearishness on stocks, which I think already was reflected when that news came out in the past couple of days. In the long run, I don't think anyone. My dad's a financial advisor. We talk about this stuff a lot. I don't feel confident that anyone knows exactly what the Fed is going to do for how long, and yeah, what impact that'll have. We talk about some stocks and stuff on this channel too sometimes.
Oh, nice.
Michael asks, question, thoughts on mystery packs from eBay?
Interesting. So I've bought mystery boxes from eBay before. Like I said, my first video was a mystery box opening on my channel, and didn't say that I was, you know, buying it for a video or anything like that. I've opened a few boxes now rather than packs, and some are hit and miss, some are great. I think when you're buying anything like that off of eBay or off of anyone else, the whole thing is you know, it's a gamble, it's a risk, that the whole mystery, and that's what draws people into it. But I quite enjoy them every once in a while, especially the mystery box openings. But like I said, I think I bought PokiRev did his mystery packs where you got like I think it was 5 sword and shield packs, just like a mix, and then you had all your chances of getting either another sword and shield pack, or there was like a red tier, a silver tier, a gold tier. I bought one of them, and I got, I think it was emerging powers or something in mine, but I think they're fun. I think they're a nice, like, they're a fun idea for people, but they're risky. Sometimes you might spend a load of money and get absolutely nothing out of it, so it's a gamble, really.
Yeah, I think that definitely focusing on buying them from people who are reputable and are known people in the community and maybe have a good reputation for actually putting in reasonable, good value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because a lot of people historically, a lot of like kind of the not best sellers in the hobby have used those as a way to get rid of all of their junk and all of their bulk, basically.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Frankly, kind of lightly scam kids and people just kind of getting back who didn't know the difference. So it's, you know, it's a scam technically because they're not promising anything, but it's kind of taking advantage of, like, you might get this amazing card, but like you're not going to get it. They may not even put it in any of them, you know. So the
whole thing can be risky in that aspect, especially with like the pack type things as well. Yeah. Often it's just repacking the stuff that the seller couldn't sell because no one actually wanted it. And now the mystery and the gamble makes it exciting enough that people are now willing to buy the thing that they wouldn't have been willing to buy before. And they add the word mystery to it, and it changes it. And it's like you say, it's the exact same product basically that they couldn't shift beforehand. Yeah, you know, people open packs
not to make money, but because of the fun of the gamble and the chase and the enjoyment. Basically, people take a lot of junk and then wrap it in a pack, which is the mystery box. And people are willing to spend money on it because of the gamble, because of
they think there might be.
Yeah. And fundamentally, I don't think that there's necessarily an issue in that, as long as people understand like what they're doing, what's going on there. But it's better, right, if you know, it's PokeRevs or whatever, you know, some person where it's like, okay, like I'm gonna at least get not 80% of my value back, or you know, something like that. Average.
Those things are different. I agree. It's buying it from that reputable source. Obviously, you've got the chance of getting, you know, the chunk of value, and then anything else is a bonus as such.
Yeah, you'll at least probably get 70% back, and maybe you'll get lucky and hit the one that gets you, you know, 100.
The jackpot as such.
About what your average is, and if you're opening up like an Evolving Skies box or something, it's the same type of thing.
Yeah, it kind of compares. So yeah, I would always, if you're doing it in the hope that you know, you're definitely going to get something or bigger, or you know, you're not going to lose all your money, buy from those people that are, you know, the more recognized people maybe in the community as such.
Question: why is the Grand Party not considered a prize card, but the University Magic card most of the time is?
Interesting question. I don't actually know.
I don't know how most people refer to the Grand Party. Trophy cards or prize cards is definitely a terminology that's often thrown out. For me, a prize card or a trophy card would just be a card that was awarded by the Pokemon company
to a tournament.
And it doesn't have to be super rare. So there can be prize cards, or there can be things that are given out for illustration prizes, or all sorts of things that, for, I think, those fan club cards, the play promo cards, which, you know, Grand Party being, you know, in line with that, are trophy cards, are given out for something, I guess. I think what's interesting about the Grand Party is it has that trophy symbol on it, that
literally on it.
And so that kind of, I think, has always made that card quite popular for people out there. Like the Grand Party card, there's lots and lots of copies of Grand Party. Many, like, that's not a very rare card. And the University Magic card is also not that rare. You know, when we talk about trophies with an estimated, I mean, the distribution number says there are 1,000 of them. There are people who debate that there can't be 1,000. We would have seen more. Take you know, that information how you want it. The intended distribution was 1,000. Do you have any thoughts? I know you collect some trophy cards. I saw Tropical Wind a while back.
So I had the Tropical Wind, and I used it as like trade towards a large purchase that I made. Rusty actually took that off of me. He featured it in one of his recent videos. That was a pretty incredible card to pick up. So with regards to trophy cards, I'm very new to that space. There are some that I love. I've had that one particular one in my collection. I actually picked up a Grand Party while I was in America as well. That was one of the first cards that I ended up getting. Again, I did a trade, and that was one of the cards I got back in that trade. It's just a card I've always wanted. I got it in a 10, that would just remain in my personal collection. And I've heard people refer to it as like the small, like, trophy card, like, you know, the starter or whatever. With regards to the details as such, obviously, like the question that they asked, I wasn't too sure. But yeah, trophies, it's a whole area that I'm definitely learning more about as I go. Like I said, as an adult, I've rediscovered things that I had no idea about as a child. All of that sort of stuff is what falls into that. Would love to eventually pick up some more cards, add them to my collection, but obviously, as we know, a lot of them are very expensive, not very easy to come by a lot of the time in certain grades, or, you know, good condition, raw, etc. But it's a world that fascinates me, and I'm pretty interested in it. Like I said, I'm sort of learning a lot of it at the moment. I mean, I'm always learning, but especially with regards to that.
Your average player says, what do you guys think about metal cards being printed by the Pokemon company in the future?
I've got no idea whether they're going to do that again, whether that will be niche to, you know, celebrations. It was obviously for the anniversary. whether they'll do things like that, but with a twist in the future at another anniversary, or whether they'll keep it more exclusive. Just because they do something once doesn't mean we're then going to start seeing it all the time. They, might just keep it more niche. It's always hard to know what they're going to do next and what they're going to give us that's new. Or
I just lost my place in the chat. Yeah, I think he was also asking, it looked like, before I lost it, just because like there's been a lot of damage on them.
Yeah, I mean, the UPC I opened, both of mine were quite heavily, like they had like chunks missing out of them, obviously where they'd rattled around in the box. I assume they're pretty hard to get in, pristine condition. So it'll be interesting to see if we get more things like that in the future. I'm not sure if we will.
All right. Well, I've lost my spot, so I'll just pick it up from wherever we are here. Oh, wait, I think I'm finding it. Here we go. Michael says, fellow CPA. So I'm not a CPA. I'm a therapist, psychologist, psychotherapist, I should say. I go to a CPA. Maybe you misheard me there.
Yeah, I think.
I would highly suggest that. He says, I'm surprised grading and authentication companies don't have the same liability as a CPA would have on like an audit or assurance engagement. What are my thoughts? Interesting question. Not sure I have anything smart to add, or like an opinion that I think he thought I was a CPA maybe, so that I would have had.
You're going to give some sort of,
interesting answer. Yeah, I think it's something that's really good for us all to learn about. Obviously the situation with like Mark's cards and kind of what happened there, and then the situation with Graded Gem with like FedEx losing a package, and then kind of like who's responsible for that, what that process is like. For me, if I'm using a middleman, I like to know, okay, well, if my cards do get lost by FedEx or something, where is the liability, and what type of insurance, Chloe, are you using, and how?
Yeah, no, of course.
And I think for Chloe to just have the answers to that, or have some sense of that they can explain it. So if someone, I don't know if it's something that, given what's kind of been going on, that it's worthwhile, even if someone doesn't ask, it's like something to inform them or
mention somewhere along the line
or something. Yeah. Just kind of like what is that process like? What are the risks? Obviously, if you send your own package, FedEx could lose it. So it's not obvious sort of who should be held responsible, I think. Like that
it's happens. A tough one.
But it should be, because of that, sort of, I think, explicitly stated, so that people who send with you know the risks, something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But George Bot says he thinks that the inflation is 6% in the UK. Slightly behind. Do you think population decline in the long-term market will have a large impact on the collectible market? Overall population of humans? What do you mean? I'm not sure.
Do they mean like the card population? Certain cards have a population of PSA, what am I trying to say? Like Lugia, Secret Wonders Lugia, for example, in a 10 is population 8 or 9, something along those lines. Don't quote me. Is that what they're referring to, maybe?
I don't know how that population would decline.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know how that would work.
And maybe they mean popularity of the hobby. Do you think popularity decline in the long term? I mean,
maybe.
Answering your question, population, like world population. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, that's a big thing that economists look at when they think of anything growing, or any business, or any, or is there going to be more people on the planet, more people interested in that sort of thing? I don't know what else I could say about that, though. I think one of the positives for Pokemon is the demographics, for the market. The demographics seem good because we have a lot of young people. We have multiple generations getting interested and involved. And you'd think in 10 to 20 years, there'll be 3 generations with the income that we have now, all spending, all interested.
Yeah.
We don't know, obviously, but let's see. That Lab Frank says, are there sets you weren't familiar with getting back into the hobby that you now like more than the original ones you first saw? Ooh, cool question.
Yes, there is a few for me. One of the main ones is Secret Wonders, not something I collected as a kid. By that point, I had stopped buying any cards, etc. I sort of like, there was a point, I got to a certain point in school, everyone sort of gave up a bit, cards went in the loft, and then obviously rediscovered as an adult. So yeah, Secret Wonders is a real favorite of mine. That's something I rediscovered, fell in love with. There's a few others as well, but that's sort of like the main one that sticks out to me the most.
So many times did that happen. I mean, there's so many sets that, and I would say that, I'm always going to be most nostalgic and connected to like base set.
Same here.
But and just in terms of like the being interesting and different types of artwork, definitely the E series were the first ones that grabbed my attention, because I was out of the hobby. I think in America, generally people were out earlier.
Yeah, no, I didn't collect E series, and that's another one. It took me a little bit longer to really get into E series, but now it is, but they are some of my favorite sets and cards, especially.
Yeah, so for me, I think that when I saw those arts and it was like, oh wow, Pokemon did a lot of, these are still kind of vintage WotC era, which I liked, but they were a bit more experimental. I don't know, with a
little bit different.
A little different. So that would probably be what comes to mind. Fliplop says, so then the lottery promo Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise, as well as the Gen 2 stars, would be considered trophies. Yeah, I mean, it again, it depends on how you define it. Sure. I mean, I don't think that I do think that I probably use and other people probably use trophies, because the word trophy has a lot of, I think, financial weight to it, or rarity weight to it. We have to be careful when we're talking to people who maybe are a little bit newer, who aren't as educated on the specific distributions, because if we just want to if things need to be a certain amount of rarity to be called a trophy card, that's a very different definition than it's just a card that was awarded by the Pokemon company, even if there are a million of them or what have you. So it's just semantics. I mean, it's just sort of what we decide on the terminology. But obviously there's a big difference between some trophy cards in terms of rarity and being awarded to one winner or 100 winners or 20 winners versus being awarded to thousands of competitors or tens of competitors or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good way to explain it. Oh, I've lost where I am now.
I think of a trophy just as something that's given to someone for some achievement, for something that they've done.
Yeah, because it kind of lines up with the whole, it being given for as an award type thing, trophy, that kind of, yeah.
And feel free if you see any questions you want to.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look through. I've seen a few of the same questions pop up.
Advice on finding collections while garage, like going to flea markets or garage sales, I think.
That's a good one. So it doesn't happen much here. I would be surprised if you, we call them boot sales, if you walked up to a boot sale, and I mean, there will definitely be people that are selling. For me, I've been quite lucky. A lot of people have reached out to me saying I've found my collection of cards from when I was a kid, or, you know, I've got a collection that I'm looking to sell because, you know, I need the money for something. And I've managed to get some really good pickups that way. Obviously there's going to be people that reach out, and a lot of the time it may not be what I'm interested in. So I always say to people, you know, I need to see everything you've got. And I've been lucky in that way that I have had a few really good finds. A few other things, I've ended up buying something from someone on eBay. And then after speaking to them, found out they have other stuff for sale, maybe that they haven't listed, etc., and finding things that way. But myself, I've never stumbled across anything crazy going to like a garage sale type situation. I don't know what it's like in the States for you guys.
I've never bought, I can't remember ever buying or finding Pokemon at a garage sale or anything, or a flea market, but I haven't been to a flea market or a garage sale in years, probably.
Yeah.
I have gone to a few and I've just never found anything, but I mean, I've probably gone to 5 or so in the past 6 years and just never found. So I'm not someone who is going around. I know that there are people who, like, they make their living literally.
Yeah.
They have like their list, and they know like the best areas around them that have like the best garage sales. I guess like wealthy, you know, some wealthy people trying to get rid of stuff,
Yeah,
and clutter, and they go to those areas, and that's not what I do. And I don't think that anyone does that for Pokemon cards. I think that those people know about Pokemon cards and try to find some there because they know that cards in general are hot, but they're buying like literally anything and everything, and then flipping that stuff on eBay.
Yeah, I think you'd be very lucky to come across a bag of gold like that, that sort of type thing.
Absolutely, I think so too. I think even coming across like a $200 collection that you can would be a great find, you know.
Yeah,
Let
I
alone,
would be blown away.
Yeah, you're gonna come across some like, this guy's thousands of PSA cards and just somehow
and sealed booster boxes, and yeah, it's just not good. Well, it might happen, but I've just never known it to really happen myself.
Yeah. Now that stuff might happen in 20, 30 years from now. And more of us kind of leave our collections places, or, you know, someone passes away and then you find some estate sales or some strange things. But yeah, at this point, I'm not so sure.
I don't think so.
Yeah. People do get lucky though, and they find like, or they get contacted by people selling, you know, old game stores or things like that.
Yeah.
Of it and are able to get stuff at.
Yeah, I've bought from a few people before. Like it's mainly like when I've bought booster boxes, and, you know, I've always asked them, you know, where did these come from? How long have you had them? And some people have said, you know, I bought a closing down game store basically. So it does happen.
Michael says, with all the recent issues with grading and authentication companies, do you think there is still value in buying a graded card versus just buying loose?
Very interesting. I suppose it depends on your reason for buying the card a lot of the time. If you're buying to sell, like, you know, your purpose is to buy raw cards, get the best grades and then flip them on, versus possibly buying graded cards that are maybe like really old cert numbers, and maybe a 10 isn't quite what it is, you know, compared to some of the grades we get now. It's really hard. I buy both a lot of the time. I normally buy graded for my personal collection. Say if it's a card that I haven't been able to pull myself from opening, you know, vintage packs, or I just haven't found it raw, but I've managed to find it graded. And like I said, it suits me at the time. It's what I'm looking for. I will still buy graded cards. I don't think there's anything that's going to put me off in that aspect. And if I come across raw cards that I'm looking for, or raw cards, I think, yeah, you know, I've always wanted that graded, haven't been able to find it graded, vice versa. It really, for me, it really depends what I'm looking for at the time and the reasoning behind it. But I don't think there's anything too major that's put me off with recent, you know, like you said, Rattle's done a few video on, you know, problems that have arisen with certain things getting graded that maybe shouldn't have, etc. But yeah, nothing's put me off as such.
I can tell you there are a lot more fake cards not graded.
Yeah, then there are graded.
One way I like to answer this is like, if you buy a graded card, it's much more likely to be real than a non-graded card. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating and unfortunate that people are creating these fake proxy cards and making their business off of it, because it really, yeah, it has a negative impact on a lot of people, and that they want to collect something that's genuine and rare and scarce,
Yeah.
can hold some sort of value over time. And that sucks. It's frustrating. Happens in every hobby where there's money to be made.
Yeah.
As far as like, from an enjoyment perspective, I do think it's really important that you figure out, do you like graded cards? Do you enjoy graded cards? Or do you enjoy binders? For me, I like both.
Same.
It's not so serious to me. Like, there are people who are like, they get really heated about like
Yeah.
graded cards. It's like, I like Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
I like chasing the high graded ones. I also like having nice ones in binders. It's fun to be here. It's fun to collect. It gets very heated and serious when it doesn't need to be. And I think the financial part of it, like what's going to retain better value, or these types of things. And is there a bit of a grading mania going on right now, that people are maybe paying a lot for graded cards, and somewhere down the line, people aren't going to care that much that you have a 10 versus a 9? It's interesting to think about. I can go both ways on it, because the truth is if there's enough money in this hobby, the wealthiest of the wealthiest is going to want the best of the best. And that's why the cards tend to explode in value and might continue to.
Yeah.
So, if you can afford it, that's what you want to buy. That's what most people want to buy who can afford it. They want something special. They want something that other people don't have. So it's just it's really impossible to predict that. But I definitely wouldn't listen to the people who say that, and I'm involved in a lot of different TCGs, and Pokemon is the biggest grading hobby by far. Some of the other TCGs that I'm involved in, they like don't understand grading at all. And there's a very small percentage or cohort that grades anything. And they're like, why would you want to like put it in plastic? Then you can't feel it. Then you can't touch it. Then you can't, and it's like, well, protects it, authenticates it, gives it a certain rarity with the grade, and it has good displayability for me. Then I can put it out on my shelf in a frame and other things I like to do. And it provides a certain ease of sale and a security, because we both know that it's real. We hope it's real or think it's real. And it provides condition so that you and I both know what the supposed objective third-party person said about the condition, so that we're not arguing, no, this is actually play. I'm not paying that much. And, but it's not a perfect solution. They're always going to mess up on the grades to some degree, and they're always going to allow things that aren't authentic. But my point in the beginning, if there were no grading companies, we would have no way of authenticating at all. And it would just be a complete crapshoot, which is terrible and much, much worse than it is now. And I think that's what's missing from Rattle's videos, is that sort of thing of like, let's think about, well, what if no one was authenticating? Would that mean less people would be getting scammed?
Yeah.
And I would say that that it provides, it makes it much easier for us to, as I said before, all agree on condition, which allows it much easier to sell things and price things and get price history, and it just makes the hobby much more enjoyable, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I agree, definitely.
And it doesn't mean that you have to ever buy a graded card. Just buy ungraded or buy graded, so it's authentic in a certain condition, and crack it and put it in a binder. That's great too.
Yeah, that's also an option. Like, if you don't want to keep it in the slab, there's nothing tying you to it. And if you are a binder collector, but you want to be sure with some cards that they're authentic, then that's your option. You can crack that slab open and take it out as well.
Yeah, I know, like, my perspective on all these things, and we get into sort of this like gatekeeping type conversation, is like, anyone who like tells another person like how they should collect is that's a weird, like, where's that coming from?
Yeah.
And I think it gets conflated with financial advice, or like advice on what we think, or our opinions on what we think is going to go up over time, or what makes the most sense. And I do think that there does seem to be people who like tell new people like what they should collect, like what you're going to enjoy the most, or like graded cards are stupid, or they're not for true collectors, or binder cards are for like poor people. I've heard people say these things, like people who can't afford to get graded. And it's just like, that toxicity for people who are newer, I do think has at least a negative impact initially. I've met people who have owned a lot of graded cards because influencers told them or showed them and thought they were cool, and they don't like them that much. And same with sealed product, and same with ungraded cards, where it's like, I wish I had actually just bought graded cards because I never look at my binders, and I can't sell them, or it's hard to sell. I wish it was easier to sell the graded cards, and maybe I'm going to grade them now, and I'm too nervous to do that. So there's lots of, for people who are newer, there's lots to learn and figure out, but don't ever feel bullied into collecting in one way or another, I guess.
Yeah, I always say that, and whenever I say, I've bought this, I'm like, it doesn't mean that because someone else likes something, you need to like it. Or if you like it, that's fine as well. Like that, there's no right or wrong answer with collecting. And I think people feel like there is a lot of the time. And there's some people who feel like they need to tell people what to do. And I'm just not for that.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on the overall Pokemon market being in a, I think you meant to say bull trap. It's bull trap, a bull trap currently. I know prices were really down in December, but maybe pick back up. I know it's speculative. Do you know what a bull trap is? Have you heard that terminology before?
I haven't heard that terminology, no.
So oftentimes when bubbles burst or things go down real like a certain amount, and then they don't go all the way down to where their low is, they actually go down a certain amount, and then the people who are still bullish start buying it up, which moves it back up temporarily. But then once those bullish people, they are too in debt or they don't have any more money to buy they give up, and yet there's still more and more and more to buy, and it goes back down. So that's like a bull trap, where bulls, they come back in too early and buy at a fairly high price compared to where it's going to get to eventually.
Right. Okay. Any thoughts on the overall market being a bull trap? I mean, I know prices were really up and down in December, but maybe pick back up. It is speculative. It's not even in just this hobby, any hobby that's, like collectibles as such. It's always impossible to know what's going to happen tomorrow, or how something is going to affect something that you didn't expect or that you did expect. I think it's a really hard thing to predict. Things have happened that no one thought would happen. And, it does cause pricing to go crazy, hype to go crazy, whatever it is that affects it. And then there's things that cause, like you say, those people disappear, and it all sort of like dips back down, not all the way to the bottom, but back closer to maybe where it not should be, but was, etc. And I get the question a lot. Do I think that someone will say, do you think I should invest in this because, is this going to go up, and is that going to go up, or we've seen this go up recently, or we've seen that dip recently, is now the right time to get it because it's then going to go back? I've never got an answer for that sort of thing, because I just think it's impossible to predict.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to invest is to think about your evaluations and trying to stick to those, rather than worrying too much. And other than the extremes so there's always these cycles where markets are always in a boom and bust cycle.
Yeah.
And there are moments where it's going to be a lot more obvious that you're in a bubble. And I do think that, I think anyone who didn't think that we were in a bubble, or didn't think that there were lots and lots of reasons we were probably in a bubble about a year ago, doesn't have a lot of experience with booms and busts, and also didn't understand how much money there was like left to continue to push these and the market cap and the amount of money that it took for Pokemon to 5-10x. Like, it was so much, and we just don't have that much money. Like, young people there aren't enough.
I just
afford these prices. I mean, I really think it honestly comes down to that. And there was also a lot of speculative frenzy of like, I'm only buying these cards, or I'm primarily buying these cards to then sell 3 months later. And that is a bubble waiting to happen when you get sort of a speculative frenzy where people are not buying things because they value them at that price. I think now, though, we're much more in a period of like I don't know I don't know what demand is going to look like. And I don't know what the macroeconomics, how that's going to change and shift over time. I think there's good value. I value these items more. There are a number of items right now that I value more than the market does. So I buy them. And that doesn't mean I'm going to be right, but I think that is how I tend to try and look at things outside of those extremes of like, but there are times when people are way too bearish. We're not there. Like there are times like before all of this, I sold a bunch of stock and sold a bunch of stuff, which I like never do, to buy a bunch of Pokemon because I thought because there's too much bearishness, or I felt that way. I don't feel that way now. I feel like there's some bullishness and a lot of people continually saying, just buy and hold anything, throw it in a closet and you'll make money. Like that type of stuff is too bullish because they don't know, they're whole communities and discords and groups that everyone believes that if you buy any Pokemon product and put it in your closet, it will go up in value. And although that's perfectly possible, if Pokemon continues to do well and go up, it's also, these are pieces of cardboard and it's possible a lot of people just move on, get bored, or we're in a junk wax era where they are over printing, or they're printing a lot right now. And it's going to go back down and the prices are going to go back down. We just don't know. And because I see people who have that bullishness, and then I also see people who have a lot of bearishness, I feel like we're somewhere in a decent place, probably, where there's upward things kind of pushing the market up, and people who I think are a little too bullish. And then there are people who I think are like, oh my God, no one likes this stuff. We're all doomed, sell everything. I hate this. I lost a ton of money and I'm freaking out, type stuff. And I think we're somewhere in the middle, and it's also a humongous market. And I think to your point, kind of, Chloe, when you started talking about this, is like, is the whole market in this, or do I think maybe just parts of it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's so many things that we're not in a period where it's like, I look out and I say, there's nothing of good value to buy, but I do look out and I say, there are still a lot of things I find expensive, but everyone out there has to make those sort of personal. On this channel, I don't tell people like, I try not to, like, these are the things to buy, but what do you think about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I'd say it's more parts of it rather than associating the entire hobby as such, all because there's too many parts of it to associate it all under one like umbrella as such, shall we say. And it's the whole thing of not knowing what's going to happen over time. You say there's those people that you say, you put anything in a cupboard or in your loft, shut it away for 10, 20 years, and you're going to be, super rich at the end of it. Like you say, if over time, either say the Pokemon company fell apart and everything went wrong, would anyone care for it in further down the line? Or you say, people move on, and as things, we get more into the future and technology, will people shy away from actual like physical objects, and will everything be digital? And it's really hard to know. But I think, putting it all under the same umbrella bracket, it's hard. I think it's more specific areas is a better way to sort of compare it.
Yeah. And we just can't predict what things are going to look like in 10 to 15 years. And so it's, everyone has to be responsible for their own purchases and their own bets with that. It's why starting a business like Chloe, where she's not depending on these items to go up in value, that's a business. You putting a bunch of product in your closet is not a business, and hoping it goes up in 10 years. Now, it's not, and I don't mean to be too harsh. I mean, it's you absolutely could make money, and you might really enjoy doing it, and all the power to you to do that. But the people who are really creating businesses that are going to do well, whether Pokemon goes up or down, are people like Chloe, are people who are running, it's eBay, it's PSA, it's the grading companies, it's the auction houses, it's, someone like, and even someone like Dan, who is flipping and reselling, or someone like SM Pratt or TCA Gaming, or all these people, but they tend to get things at such low prices, or under market, or early, or through distributors, that even if they sell most of it right away at market, they're recouping a lot of their value. They're not placing huge gambles on like, is Pokemon going to 10x again? Okay. So that just isn't what their business model. None of their business models is based around we're going to 10x again in 5 years, and that's how I'm going to become rich. It's Patreon money, it's ad revenue, it's memberships. It's so just understanding when you see people getting rich, what is from most of people or building businesses, what is really behind that? What's fueling that? And what will in the future. So
yeah, no, I agree. There's always more going on than I think a lot of people sort of see on the surface. And that's maybe where they get confused as to how people, either doing so well or making so much. It's that there's other things maybe happening. And it's not just one like tunnel vision sort of stream. It's, several as such.
Do you all think it would be healthier for the hobby to have a very quick retracement or for it to slowly decline for a year or two?
Oh,
interesting.
Very interesting. I honestly don't know. Like I say, it's a hard one with regards, because I think everyone's opinions on things as well are so like, I don't know how to explain it, but I personally, I really don't know if I had to pick one or the other. I don't really know if I have much of an opinion on it as such. Until something happens, it's always hard to say, well, what if this happened? Do you think it would have this effect? Yeah. And I think we don't know until that happens. So I think it's really hard to, like you say, predict, or it might have the opposite effect as well. Like until I witness something, that's my view as such.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I think it's hard to predict how, right? We can theorize, we can say, well, if the market collapses again, it's going to be worse because it's going to scare a lot of people out who are never going to come back or something. Whereas more gradually, maybe people would be more comfortable or something. But I don't think that we really know. It's definitely interesting to think about. Obviously, we've already had a 50 to 60 to 70%, retrace in a month's time in many, many sets and cards. So people are sort of responding to that right now. And I think you see people who are responding into a variety of ways. Some people are very, very happy because they can buy things again. They can
it's more affordable. Yeah.
Fun. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not, and I'm going to hate on a lot of NFTs right now. This is not a lot of NFTs. No one cares about them other than the value, other than the money. Pokemon has a place and an experience and a larger, more established community of friends. Now, there are communities and NFTs that people are building, which is helping really create more value on these certain things. But a lot of that is associated with like wealth and trying to get money and picking the next thing that's going to go up. And all of that exists in Pokemon too, and definitely existed a lot more in the last year. There's a lot of people who's just about money and trying to make money off of it. But fundamentally, the vast majority of people here, if not almost everyone, has some sort of personal life connection to these things and a childhood connection. And so it means something to everyone. And thus, when prices go down, the reason why things aren't going to zero is because people want them and want to be here and enjoy them. And they don't even care if they go back up in price. A lot of people, like, genuinely, it's sort of like, I'm just happy that I like now can like responsibly afford this instead of like putting myself in financial to buy freaking Pokemon cards,
Yeah.
So that's
I agree. It like, the dip, it does make it more affordable, and people maybe feel like they can actually put more into it because they're sort of back in the realm of being able to afford something that, when there is the crazy hype and things go wild, they get priced out and it might become more unenjoyable for them. So like I say, even though, it could have the opposite effect, things going down actually could bring more people in, cause more people to stay, because they're like, right, I can actually collect what I want to now and not have to worry about bankrupting myself to get certain cards. I can put sets together and, binders together that I never thought I'd be able to afford. Like, it's all that sort of stuff, maybe not that extreme, but I think it can have the opposite effect to what people think it does sometimes.
I truly think the most important thing is that we have lots of content creators and lots of businesses and lots of people creating, in-person events. Like, those are the things that are way more important in Pokemon continuing to be successful than the prices. I think people are at the end of the day, people are way more interested in having positive experiences here and enjoying it, whether that's going on, your channel or someone else's channel and just watching them open packs and hanging out and having a laugh, fun. Those are the things that create, because it's you in a room by yourself opening cards and looking at the packs is definitely fun, but it's way more enjoyable doing it with other people. And I think that's part of why it really exploded this year, is instead of if you're just doing these things by yourself, now you're doing it, and it's socially acceptable. There are tons of people doing it of all ages, and you don't have to be, embarrassed maybe as much of like what you enjoy or what connects to your life, because tons of other people, feel the same way. Like that, I think all of that stuff is more important than the stonks to keep Pokemon growing over time.
Yeah, I think the social aspect's really important, and it's a great thing to, like I said, be able to meet new people, make new friends, and like-minded people that you might not meet, in other social settings or areas. You're all here for the same reason.
Ecobase asks, do you have the upside down WB stamps or the 4 position only cards?
No, so I don't have any 4 position only cards. I don't know if I have any of the upside down W stamps. I feel like I do. Like, I bought a huge collection, must have been a couple of years ago now, and there was lots of sets in it, but then there was a whole load of like miscellaneous random things, and I'm sure I feel like I did get a handful, and it's taken me a long time to sort through this collection. So I've done it like in stages. I always see the for position only cards always come up on the auction houses, like the graded ones, but I've never owned any myself. Kind of, it's nothing that I've sort of really wanted to collect as such either. Like I said, everyone has their own like collecting goals. For me, it's something I haven't really branched into, or sort of I don't have a collection of them, nor have I sort of really wanted to at this point. Like I said, over time, taste changes. It might be something, further down the line.
Yeah, it's one of those things I'd like to own, but other people seem to want to own it more than I do. And so I'm willing to buy. Like there are plenty of cards like that where I'm like, yeah, I like it and I'd love to own it, but other people are paying thousands of dollars for it. And other things I like better for that price. That's how
I'm the same. Yeah, I weigh things up, like especially with stuff like that. With regards to price, there might be something else that I want a lot more for my collection, and where I'd rather spend my money. If I had money wasn't an issue and I just had cash to constantly blow, obviously, maybe pick up more than normal. But yeah, for me, it's like you say, I think other people want them more maybe than I would be interested in.
Yeah, and I know that Echo Joe here is a big error collector, and so that's part of why I'm sure
okay.
He really goes after those. I think I heard him mention those WB ones in particular. He's been trying to find. Let's see. How much longer do you feel like going? Do you want to go for another 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah,
minutes?
That's fine. Yeah.
Somewhere
I'm
in there.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do a few more questions.
Yeah. You're always welcome back, and maybe
no, I'd love to.
One of those roundtables in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I'd definitely be up for that.
Let's see. Yeah, Pikachu. Yeah, I'm being attacked by the light right now from my window.
Oh, is it following you around the room?
It's moving. I'm almost off the couch now, so
you're gonna have nowhere to go.
This is a very expensive studio that I've created here. Well, it's really
custom lighting and everything.
It really showcases my features extremely well. John says Jake needs pretty pink lights also. Should I go? Do you guys want me to have that? Should I copy PokiChloe's background?
Yeah, you can have the same setup.
Yeah, and people saying, I think it's great that people like different things. Yeah, it's fun.
I think it's important as well that happens, because what's the point otherwise if we all were drawn to the exact same stuff?
Did you happen to see the video of the kid who found his old collection and was just going through piles and piles of vintage base hollows? Do you think it was real? I think PokiRev did a reaction to it. Oh, this video.
I did not see it.
So PokiRev did a video a while ago reacting. Someone came out with he had like 50 to 100 what looked like fairly minty, just like unlimited base set hollows of like everything. And he just was kind of like going through it on camera, and PokiRev did a reaction.
Oh, like a reaction video to it. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that. I'll have to watch that.
I have no idea, Michael, if that, I don't know if there's been follow-up or, he had, my recollection was that it was a little strange. His story was just like he forgot about it or something. And I don't know how you amass
that much.
Yeah, just like 100, like he had thousands of Watsi
right.
As a kid is a very, the amount of money, like I was lucky to get a pack every 2 weeks, and I
was going to say I had cards, but I didn't have them coming out of my ears. Like as a kid, it was pocket money or Christmas or.
Like I was the cool kid who just had like one Charizard, let alone if I had 50 Charizards, what type of like control I would have over the playground. But
I feel like I'd remember that as well. That's quite a significant collection to have had as a child.
Yeah, having that as a kid, would be insane.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to watch that video.
Pikachu says, Chloe, do you find it difficult to meet up with people in the hobby being overseas? How is Australia right now? You had mentioned that you had talked a little bit about that earlier. But
I always get that. I always get people thinking that I'm Australian. Like whenever I go to America, they always say, "Can I ask where you're from, England or Australia?" And like to me, our accents are so different, so it's so funny. But yeah, I have found it hard. I've met like Dean. I spoke about him earlier. He's become a really good friend of mine. We've done a lot of content together. But like we speak about it a lot as well, how there's not as many events here or, other things going on. So we find it hard to have that in-person connection and meet with people because we don't have the opportunity to bump into them as such. Whereas like when I was in the States a few weeks ago, I was in California for a few days and I went to Frank and Sons. And walking in there, I saw a couple of people who said, "Oh, I've watched your videos," and then I've met people that I've spoken to on Instagram in there as well, like all in the space of like 2 hours. And it was just incredible to like actually see people in real life and get to see the face behind the, the Instagram account or the, the subscriber on the channel. So yeah, I do find it here. Maybe I'm just missing something, but like I said, there's more card shows this year than I think there has been in the past. So that's going to be great for the UK community. And I'm hoping that once we sort of get a rhythm going with it, get people going to these things, that we'll see a lot more of it, hopefully, over the next couple of years or so.
One of my closest friends growing up was from London and lives in London now. So for me too, the accent is maybe easier to pick up than the
once you hear it all the time.
Average American, yeah. I'm gonna go for about 10 more minutes probably, and I'll be ready. I'm on right now. You're live. Yeah. Yes. No problem. Oh, thank you. You want to come say hi? No. You want to come on stream? Sure. This is my girlfriend, Sarah.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Chloe. Nice to meet you.
Meet you. I heard you have a fantastic collection.
Thank you. Thank you. You can probably see some of it in the room.
Yeah, beautiful behind you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Enjoy your chat.
Yeah, thank you.
We are going to celebrate Valentine's Day tonight is our plan.
Oh, nice. Are you doing anything nice?
Yeah, we're going out to, so we just moved. So we're checking out a restaurant here that we.
Oh, okay.
So
lovely.
Should be fun. We've been like, because of COVID, we've been like not doing that at all. So I'm like having a friend over for the Super Bowl this weekend, and we're going.
Okay.
So it's socializing again. Have you guys been socializing, or have you been?
No, to be honest, like the restrictions here were quite strict for a while. And like we've got a few like vulnerable family members, so like we didn't want to, you know, risk sort of, I'd rather be able to see them over sort of, you know, going out and socializing. And to be honest, not a lot of was open here, so us going to America like a couple of weeks ago, that's the first time I've traveled or done anything major since the pandemic started, and it was kind of surreal, just sort of like seeing people again in person, because we just haven't really been doing anything, and I've been so busy, which helps, but yeah, it's everything's slowly starting to sort of open up here now, and obviously with vaccinations and everything, it's all sort of moving in the same direction.
Yeah, this was definitely a year to be a workaholic and to start a business.
Oh yeah.
If you're ever going to do
it, you're never going to miss out on anything.
Yeah, it's I mean, I never would have started this channel, I don't think, if it hadn't been for it, actually. So because I started the channel really with a friend of mine initially, who, it was just, I was working in the schools a lot at that time.
Right.
And
okay.
I like couldn't go anymore. They shut down. They didn't have any like social workers allowed in the school.
Yeah.
So I had like a ton of free time. So I was like, all right, let's start this and
use it wisely.
And at that time it was there were a lot less channels too, so I felt more of a like this will be like really great for people to have more of this type of content. And then I guess evidently like a ton of people have the same idea,
and everyone did the same thing.
PokiChloe asked you, Chloe, what's the coolest item you got to see at Scott's grandma basement?
Oh, in the grandma basement. I mean, it was quite something in that room, but it was so funny because I don't know if it was while we were doing one of the live streams or just before. And I was sitting on the sofa sort of at the back of the room, and then just down the side of the sofa was just like a sealed, but I think it was Burning Shadows booster box. And he just sort of pulled that out and was like, oh, I forgot that was there. Like, as if he's just got things in like crevices and holes that he hasn't seen for a few years, is just pulling them out. It was great to like actually, again, like I said, meet him like seeing people in person that I've become friends with. It was a great experience, and I was with him for a couple of days and we filmed some content, and I got to see, obviously he normally switches it up on the backdrop, but he's got like, you know, his Mario Pikachu box. It's just really cool being able to sort of see other people's collections and setups, etc. And a bit of a surreal experience sitting in that room and filming videos. But it was great to see him and actually get to see each other in person, because we've been friends for a while now. And it was brilliant.
The famous setup. I've been watching that setup for years.
Yeah, no, it was very strange to actually be in there myself.
Curious to hear your thoughts. How many authentic first edition base set unlimited boxes are actually out there still unopened in the world?
Someone else asked me this fairly recently, because I think we were talking about vintage box, because obviously I want to do one vintage a month, and someone said, you know, is there going to get a point where there's going to be like only a handful of, you know, certain boxes left? I mean, like I said, it's impossible to tell. I think you said earlier that people, unless they see something, they're like, oh, that's all we know of. So there's only 500 because we've only seen 500 of them. I have bought things from people and spoken to people before that have no online presence. They don't have Instagram, YouTube, social media. They have private collections that either they've had for years and they've just, you know, kept, rediscovered them, and maybe slowly started selling a few bits here and there. And I just think there is a large percentage of items out there that they're there, and the population for things are maybe higher than we think they are. Just because someone isn't posting it on their Instagram page or making a YouTube video about it doesn't mean it's not out there. With regards to how many, I couldn't tell you, but I think there's a lot more than we think there is of a lot of things.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's I used to, early on my channel, I would have people who were like new to the hobby coming in here yelling at me, telling me there aren't going to be more graded of these cards, there aren't going to be more booster boxes found, like this is all there is. And I'm literally like, dude, like I've been doing this, like I know, what you stated, I know personally just in my like 4 or 5 of my friends, we have like 10 times the amount that you think exists in the world, right? I mean, like it was like this type of thinking. These are mass produced items. That being said, people really like these things, really cherish these things, and it's a massive amount of popularity. And these are iconic items. So
Yeah.
if there are 50,000 unlimited base set booster boxes that aren't open yet, or whatever we think, 20,000, 10,000, 25,000, somewhere in there, that isn't that much, you know?
It isn't, yeah. In like, you know, the bigger picture, it is a limited number. And like the rate at the things that get opened at the moment, it is obviously going to start dwindling. But because, you know, you get the likes of PokiRev, he, you know, rips vintage boxes every week. My aim is to do it once a month, but you know, you get, and now there's the likes of Whatnot and all these sort of like streaming apps. People are going wild with ripping vintage packs. So obviously it's going to keep decreasing. It's never going to increase, but I think there is more people out there that maybe don't put themselves online and maybe aren't as known. And they are sitting on things and collections, etc., that we aren't as aware of. So that's where the sort of, you know, the actual number of what exists might differ a little bit.
I've had people contact me saying they have 100 themselves, 50.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's
30 Neo-Gen boxes, you know, just like these crazy amounts. And they're people that nobody knows, or you know, maybe a few people know, but they've, you know,
in general, they're not. Yeah.
They're just not, you know, so. But there's so much demand, and there's so many people watching these channels, and there are multiple generations that are going to become interested, and everyone's going to have more money. So there's plenty of upside things too. But now, first edition base set that he asked about, that I do not know. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if there were only 500 to 1,000 in the world, like that there were like that few left. I wouldn't be shocked if there were only 500 left. I think I'd be pretty shocked if there were only like 100 to 200 were that few.
Yeah, if it was that low.
I certainly don't know of 100
no.
personally. So it is possible that there really are that few. I don't know. Like there really could be. I mean, there could be 60, 75 left in the world. And if that's true, that's so little. That is so
Yeah, no, I don't. I have no idea either. Like you said, it could be that low. There could be a couple of hundred. There could be, you know, 50, 60. It's hard for us to know the exact correct figure. But if it is, you know, as low as some of that, that would be insane. And maybe we're not appreciating how rare it is now actually becoming in that aspect.
I collect some pretty rare boxes from other, like that I think are quite a bit rarer than any of these boxes from other, like tops boxes from the 50s, like things that like were printed much less than any of this stuff and just have been beat up. And like, there's still a number of those. I mean, the world is a humongous place, and so many people there. And there are a lot of people who have who don't need to sell, and they don't want to tell anyone they have it, and they're just happy, even in their middle class lifestyle. Yes, they could sell for 300,000 or whatever, but they're just happy. They're like, oh, it's freaking cool. I have one of these insane boxes, and never telling anyone, you know. So I
think there's a lot of people like that, and maybe people who are older and, you know, don't use the internet and stuff as much, and maybe owned either stores when they were, you know, had a business, or their kids collected and they held some items themselves. I think there's a lot of those type of people out there. So again, I think knowing the real number of anything is impossible. Obviously we can gauge an idea, but it's really hard to know.
Where do you see the 20th anniversary Festa Pica promo down the road? Some of these 20th anniversary era promos are some of the heaviest hitters for modern in price and nostalgia. Just got one back today.
Interesting. I'm not sure, if I'm honest. Not something that I've really picked up at all. Where they are, you know, where they'll go in the future, you know, 5-10 years down the road. For me, I wouldn't be able to even gauge at all, to be honest with you.
I think it's interesting when we use the word nostalgia for modern items.
Yeah.
But I think there is a legitimacy to it, because it's like, well, because like this card, for example, it has like PokiChloe and then like the starters around it, and so it can like, even though the exact card art is brand new, we've never seen that before, it has
the link to
I do think though that some of that's overblown. Like that card is not going to hit people. I just don't believe it that card is going to hit people like when I see a base set Alakazam.
Yeah.
Because it's the exact art from my childhood and I have specific memories associated with it. And I just think that there's a difference there. I'm surprised at how expensive some of those cards are. I own some of them. I've sold some because I was surprised, but they're cool cards. They're great looking arts. In terms of rarity, I don't really know. I'm not sure that there are any numbers out there for estimated distribution of those. Do you know the different ones? There's like the one with all of them on it. Then you have like the Mew, the Pikachu.
I've seen them all. Yeah. I think they are cool cards, but yeah, it's not something that I've collected myself. And like you said, with regards to like referring back to base set, the whole nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
I again, maybe it's just because we're so nostalgic to that era, but I don't know if it is going to have that same effect as such. Like you say, it's a brand new, not brand new card. It's a new card. Yeah, it has that link to some of the original artwork or Pokemon, etc. But it's just not on the same level as such.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I talk about is that cards that have been talked a lot by influencers and have been put out there, and you see people on large channels owning and talking about high prices, like those are generally some of the most overpriced cards because just common sense. It's like if that's out there, hundreds of thousands of people are seeing that, but they're not seeing another one that's of similar rarity and potential coolness. And those were talked a lot about. Ando talked about those on Listed Leaf a million years ago. As soon as he talked about them, prices went way up, even back then. And that was maybe 2018 when I saw him, 2017. So if you really like it, go for it. But I would really ask yourself, like, do I care about this card as much as I care about a first edition base set holo in a high way? It's like, which one do I care about more? The end of the day. And for me, I want to own both. It's not like I don't like any of these cards. It's just, and I would say this in my Discord too. It's like nobody can be connected to the modern cards like we are to the old cards yet.
Ever.
And that doesn't mean that people can't be in the future, but it's like this, as cool as that alternate art is, you have seen that card, you've known that card for 10 days.
Yeah.
It's like I've had a relationship with this card for 20 years and this art for 20 years, and what it meant to me as a kid, what it meant to me playing the red and blue games. It's a different thing. And it doesn't mean that you don't love that card, but it's like when we think about the attachment and the connection that some people are going to have to some of that older stuff, it's just not. And I think people hear that. Some people is like, you don't like modern or anti-modern. It's like, no, I also modern. It's just being realistic about how much you can fall in love with something in 10 days. Let me put it that way. And as an adult versus as a kid. So
yeah, you haven't had the time to grow that attachment to it. So until, like you say, it's been around 10, 15, 20 years, then you can relate. But I think until you get to that point, there isn't comparison with the likes of the cards that we would have had from our childhood, or, vice versa, a little bit further on.
And I think from a market perspective, one thing I talk about is just the danger of, because of that fact, and we've seen it, like demand can really shift on what people like in the modern stuff a lot more than what it can in the vintage.
Yeah.
Like the key cards and the key hitters in the vintage are the same now as when I got in the hobby, basically. I mean, Neo Gen's become more popular. Some of the Neo series, there have been things that have outperformed slightly other things, but overall, it's still like, the Lugia, it's like those specific cards. Whereas if you look at modern, Rainbow Rares were like, everyone loved them. Everyone was obsessed with them, was paying the most money. The Burning Shadows Charizard was the first ever like very expensive modern card in really Pokemon, history that got to like $500 a card back then. Now people hate Rainbow Rares and say they love, all cards, and it's people were obsessed with Hidden Fates. Now baby shinies are less than $1 each, and and people are bored of them and have already completed their sets and now are moving on to the next thing. It's just much people there aren't enough years to be confident in like what people are really going to like and keep over time.
And I think there's so much at the moment, like with the set you know, there's so many more cards in a set now. And like you say, it was rainbows. Now it's alternate arts. Now we're seeing the new V stars. Is it going to be there? Like, where is it going to, you know, there's too much of it available at the moment. I think for people to start narrowing down and being like, oh yeah, that was the sort of standout of its time, because we're in that time at the moment.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's why I think just collecting what you love right now, right? And
Yeah.
and if you want to take some bets and be like, you know what, amazing rares, they're the one, or
Yeah.
or hidden fates is the one, or evolutions is the one, or whatever it is. And there are plenty of great theories and theses people can come up with of why this one is going to stand the test of time. I had someone who's really all about alt arts say alt arts are going to stand the test of time because it's the first time that Pokemon's really like been immersive in the world versus just having like planar backgrounds. And it's like interesting. Like, I have no idea if people are going to care about that long term. Maybe, you know what I mean? It's like, and it's a perfectly reasonable theory, but it's just not something that I would go out and like invest a lot of money into.
Or be confident that that's the sole reason that's why it's going to happen.
And then particularly angry at other people who disagree. And people get very heated on like, what, and part of that I think comes from people are not this person, but people shill a lot. So they want me to say really good things about the stuff that they own and bad things about the stuff that they don't own.
Because it's beneficial for them.
Yeah, versus trusting that in the long run, people don't, it's not going to matter as much. People are going to like what they like. And people are going to, these things are going to be, having some confidence in your taste or something, and that people will like over time, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Shall we take like one or two more in this?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah. Because you're going to be blinded by the end of this.
If you see anything you want to take. Chloe, I don't think I've heard you talk about it, but are you impressed with what MetaZoo has done with their Kickstarter? What are your overall thoughts on the long-term game? And I'm going to broaden it to just Kickstarters in general too. What have you been following Kickstarters? What's been going on?
When obviously when I started the streaming and the business and everything, like some newer TCG started becoming popular, and I honestly haven't had the time to really it's getting worse. Get into any. My husband has actually is into MetaZoo himself. I think I've actually got a Kickstarter on the I think that's a Kickstarter on the shelf back there, MetaZoo. That's kind of like his thing that he's got into. And I have started to try and sort of like understand it a little bit more and try and follow into some of the new TCGs a little bit more, just to broaden my horizons a bit, because especially owning a store, I want to be able to offer other TCGs, but I want to understand a little bit more about them. Obviously, Pokemon is always going to be my main thing. That's obviously what I collected as a child. That's why I got back into collecting as an adult. But yeah, with regards to opinions on MetaZoo, I don't really have any at the moment because I haven't really spent any time opening it, finding out too much in depth about it. Like I said, my husband has started his own small collection and I've kind of tried to get involved a little bit. But yeah, that's literally all I've got to say for some of the newer TCGs. I just haven't had the time really to sort of like take that step towards any of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I think Zach is having on his channel. I watched a live stream. He had a creator come on, and then there's another creator coming on soon. Right. To talk about their games. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Zach Sparrow, not Gem Mint. Multiple Zachs in the hobby. Let's see what we got here. Last minute questions. All right, last chance, everyone. So maybe we'll I don't see any question here. I think we touched on most things.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot.
All right. So let's end it there for today. Any last minute comments, thoughts?
Just want to say thank you for having me, first of all. Really appreciate it. Everyone has been really great in the chat, some great questions as well. And I just say really love your idea of your round table, getting people together from all over the world together. I just think it'll be great, not only for those people to talk to each other, but for people to listen in and hear about people's experiences from everywhere else as well. I think that'd be brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think, and I'm passionate about growing the hobby and just connecting people and making, and the idea of connecting it more globally, and also just so people can understand kind of what it's like for other people. And I think it's important, because I do think that even when we talk about market stuff, it can feel like that doesn't relate to me. And so it's harder to sort of connect to, because it's not what someone's seeing. So I think having more of that would be great.
Definitely.
Looks like we got a super chat here. Ooh. And Fat Lab Frank says, awesome to see you both just chatting. Really enjoyed the stream. Hope you have a good evening tonight, Jake. Drink on me to say thank you for the evening's content. I look forward to the next one. I appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you all so much for hanging out and joining us. And thank you, Chloe, for coming on. And it's been nice meeting you. And
yeah, you too.
That. And congratulations on your success in business. And
thank you.
It keeps growing and all that good stuff over there.
Yeah, brilliant. No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone. And go subscribe to Chloe's channel and all that stuff, and mine too. And